Chapter 201, A New Machine Beast, Heroic Spirit. Back at the hotel, Long Yewei studied Nair, who still seemed a little unsettled, then turned to Yali. How did it go? Did they give you trouble? Yali shook her head softly. No, just a warning. I checked. Nair has no physical or mental injuries, but the young master of the Jisho Chamber of Commerce was a little heavy-handed with his words. That's why she's distracted. Nair nodded. Yali's reassurance eased her a little. She murmured, Godmother, I'm okay. It's just, young Master Chen is very powerful. I felt scared. Long Yewei watched her closely, concern creasing her brow. Were you hurt? Did he do anything to you? Nair shook her head again. Gathering herself, she spoke firmly. No, young Master Chen only told me not to get close to Xuan Li. I promise I won't bother her again. Yali breathed out a relieved sigh. Nair was safe. That mattered most. She looked at Long Yewei and added in a softer tone. That girl, Xuan Li, she's impressive. Standing in front of her, I felt as if the core of my spirit power was laid bare. She's extraordinarily in tune with nature. Long Yewei nodded, thoughtful. Even with absolute strength among the limit Douluo, she could not afford to underestimate the influence of a powerhouse like the Jisho Chamber of Commerce. We can't leave this alone. The Jisho Chamber clearly has reservations about Xuan Li. When we get the chance, we should investigate properly. Yali shook her head gently. I think it's better not to disturb Xuan Li. She already feels some belonging with the Jisho Chamber. Any interference from us would only be forcing the issue. Even if she wanted to leave with us, we're not in a position to take her. Nair nodded silently in agreement. The pressure from young Master Chen had been too intense. She absolutely did not want to encounter him again. All right, we're all tired. Let's rest. We'll leave for Donghai first thing tomorrow. Long Yewei said nothing more, but her expression remained distant as she walked toward the hotel lounge. She could not let her guard down. Only she knew the truth. Something was changing, something like becoming a god. On a boundless plain woven in red and orange, desolation stretched like an endless painting toward the horizon. Sand and wind swirled like the dust of time, whispering of long frozen years. Yet amid the wasteland, faint traces of life were stirring, a fragile dawn breaking the barren silence. A cluster of more than a dozen mechanical assembly lines rose from the plain like giant sleeping beasts. Gears and chains moved in silent choreography, metal fed into them and molten iron flowed like a burning river, finally hardening into the forms of machine beast warriors. Lifeless at first, they nevertheless stood as symbols of hope for this world, as if the plane itself were being reborn through them. The roar of the assembly lines echoed like the planet's pulse. Each beat gave birth to new life. Not far away, on a small hill, a pile of rare and precious metals glittered like fallen stars, materials far beyond the ordinary metals used on the lines. Their value was immeasurable. Chen Zhou stood before that pile and asked softly, Golden Claw God, which companion will we summon this time? Golden Claw God stood behind him, head tilted, and said, The machine beast world has existed for tens of thousands of years. The War King Token records many ancestral heroic spirits. I don't know which one will rise. Chen Zhou chuckled and glanced at him. Then why not suggest a few? I still trust your judgment. Golden Claw God paused. Then a flash of insight lit his eyes. After a moment, he replied, It depends on your plan, my lord. Oh, tell me. Chen Zhou leaned forward, interest showing. Golden Claw God continued, If you intend to strike aggressively and act before the forces across Douluo Star can respond, then with the rare metal reserves we have, we can summon heroic spirits of the beast race. Using the military might of the armored beast tribe as a backbone, we could conquer cities, divide and neutralize opposition. In half a year, Douluo Star could be brought to its knees. If you prefer a slower approach, use half the rare metals to summon heroic spirits of the machine race. Develop steadily and encroach subtly, eroding the enemy without them realizing it. Simultaneously, advance technology and improve people's livelihoods. Rally the people with the promise of unity, then strike swiftly and decisively. Silence before the storm, then a thunderous roar. Chen Zhou listened, a hint of admiration in his eyes. He patted Golden Claw God's shoulder. Your analysis is sharp, but I think we should pursue a balanced strategy. Golden Claw God's expression shifted to one of respectful curiosity. My lord? We need the courage and brute force of the beast race, Chen Zhou said, his gaze sweeping the rare metals and the intelligence and technology of the machine race. Only by combining both can we be invincible on this continent. Golden Claw God nodded, considering. Your wisdom is clear. What, then, is the first step? Chen Zhou smiled, a trace of mystery in his voice. We'll summon a heroic spirit of the beast race first, then we'll decide on the precise course. Excitement sparked in Golden Claw God's eyes. No matter which path Chen Zhou chose, it meant the Jisho Chamber of Commerce was entering a new phase. Whether through the beast race's valor or the machine race's ingenuity, unprecedented power was about to be added to their ranks. Shall we begin? Golden Claw God asked, barely able to hide his impatience. Chen Zhou nodded. He reached out and produced a War King token that shimmered with deep blue light and an original energy amethyst pulsing with pure, dense energy in his palm. Both artifacts were primal-level authorities of the machine beast world, capable of shaping formidable bodies and calling forth the ancient heroic spirits recorded in the token, giving them new life and might. Begin, Chen Zhou said quietly, his tone solemn. Golden Claw God sprang into action. He directed the machine beast warriors to arrange the rare metals around the War King token in a precise pattern. As each metal was set in place, the token's light brightened until it grew almost blinding, like a star on the verge of exploding. The winds picked up, carrying the hum of awakening machinery across the plain as the ritual reached its peak. Chapter 202, Hu Sha Tian. The original energy. Amethyst hung high in the sky, slowly rotating. Scattered points of purple light pulsed within it, each carrying threads of life energy. The authorities of creation and origin, life and destruction, power and law, control and creation. The great authorities that represented the primordial level of the machine beast world were now in Chen Zhou's hands. Before, he had only been able to rely on the War King token and the original energy amethyst to spontaneously forge mecha bodies, revive lives, and summon heroic spirits. But as his mental core deepened in its engraving of the Wind mental rune, he could now begin to draw upon the authorities contained within both artifacts, if only slightly. Beast Race, enterprising, swift as the wind, conquering territory. After inputting those parameters and other necessary data, the War King token transformed into a gravitational node, pulling a mountain of precious metals toward it. The ore liquefied, a metallic flow that shimmered under the purple radiance of the original energy amethyst and slowly took on a vitality of its own. In the machine beast world, a mech beast's combat power wasn't simply tied to the grade of its metal. Theoretically, even low-grade iron could summon legendary figures like Huo Wuji or the Golden Claw God, but those titans rarely answered such weak summons, and dense, heavy metals prevented a summoned warrior from maintaining peak performance. Chen Zhou had never been stingy with his future generals. The metallic liquid resolidified into a gleaming golden cocoon. A streak of purple light shot from the original energy amethyst and poured into it, suffusing each drop of metal with life. The War King token absorbed part of the same metallic flow and transformed it into an amethyst suffused with the beast race's aura, which slowly merged into the golden shell. Time seemed to pause. The cocoon throbbed silently on the plain like a heart ready to burst. Tiny fissures crept across the cocoon, widening until, with a crisp snap, it split open. A blinding light spilled out, sweeping the plain, and then faded to reveal a tall figure. His mechanical frame embodied speed. The metal gleamed cold in the sun. Armor plates flowed in smooth lines as if honed 1,000 times. His head tapered to an inverted triangle. His eyes burned crimson, as if they could see through all illusion. Long, powerful arms ended in fingertip blades that looked ready to rip apart any defense. Hu Shatian greets the War Mecha King, the figure intoned as he dropped to one knee. His voice was deep and resonant, an invisible pressure that swept across the plain. Raw, unbridled combat energy poured from him like a divine force, stirring the desolate world. Chen Zhou watched the newly born beast race heroic spirit with a small, satisfied smile. Hu Shatian, the war king of the tiger leopard tribe, might not have been the most destructive warlord in the tribe's history, but he was one of the most accomplished. His strategy and tactics were honed to a razor's edge, and his combat ability was formidable. In a world carved by endless conflict, the survivors were the Crucible's best. Under Hu Shatian's banner, the Tiger Leopard tribe had once suppressed rival war kings and swept through several machine race cities. Had he not grown overconfident and been betrayed just shy of ultimate victory, he might have carved out an era of his own. Chen Zhou inclined his head. Welcome back, Hu Shatian. Your strength and wisdom are exactly what we need. Hu Shatian rose, eyes fixed on Chen Zhou. My lord, Hu Shatian will follow you faithfully and help you unify this world, he said. Chen Zhou turned to the Golden Claw God standing beside him and asked with a smile, What do you think of him? Golden Claw God, usually composed, froze for a moment and stared at the tall figure before him. The name stirred memory. Once he had met a machine beast warrior from the Armor Beast tribe who went by the name Golden Claw God, an image of loyalty and integrity. Hu Shatian studied the newcomer and, realizing he wore a human guise, politely refrained from probing further with mental force. That would be impolite between future comrades. Golden Claw God forced a bitter smile. Then his combat aura flared. His human form dissolved and revealed his own towering mechanical body, crimson eyes flashing with remembered light. He inclined his head toward Hu Shatian. Long time no see, he said hoarsely. Hu Shatian's crimson gaze narrowed for a long beat as he scrutinized Golden Claw God. Then recognition dawned, followed by a rumbling laugh. Ha ha! It's you, Golden Claw God. I didn't expect you to be serving my lord as well. Chen Zhou watched the exchange with amusement. The two clearly had a past. Golden Claw God's expression tightened, tinged with emotion. Hu Shatian and I once stood on opposite sides. At the time, I had no choice but to rely on a reserve of hidden energy. Despite whatever history they shared, Golden Claw God recommended Hu Shatian without hesitation, perfect subordinate behavior. If one could not achieve greatness with such dedication at one's side, then that person's fate was already sealed. Hu Shatian, for his part, was magnanimous. He had won their earlier contest and had been impressed by Golden Claw God's tenacity and loyalty. He clapped him on the shoulder. Let bygones be bygones. Now that we both serve the War Mecha King, we should work together to build something great. With that, he shifted into a human form, a visage marked by high, aggressive arrogance, eagle-like eyes, ruthless and commanding. Chen Zhou nodded in approval. Hu Shatian clearly had the leadership, strength, and temperament to stand at the head of future campaigns. Together, the two war kings bowed once more to Chen Zhou, pledging to carve a new path through the chaos of the machine beast world. Chapter 203. Such powerful combat energy. Since that's the case, Golden Claw God, heed my command. Chen Zhou's face went serious. His voice carried an unquestionable authority. From today on, you and Hu Shatian will each organize and train 2 elite squads. In 1 year, I want to launch a war that will sweep across the whole planet. A 3-front war. You and Hu Shatian will each take a continent outside the Douluo continent. Handle all military affairs as you see fit. No need to report to me on every decision. Can you do it? Golden Claw God immediately dropped to one knee, his reply steady and resolute. Golden Claw God accepts the command. I will not fail my lord's trust. Hu Shatian knelt as well, eyes flashing with battle light. Hu Shatian will surely expand our territory for my lord and clear every obstacle. Chen Zhou nodded, satisfied. His gaze swept over them, carrying an added weight. Remember, your mission isn't merely conquest. More important is integrating resources and winning hearts. War is only a means, not the end. I want a unified, powerful world, not a wasteland. Hu Shatian and Golden Claw God exchanged a look and spoke in unison. We humbly obey our lord's command. Chen Zhou waved them up. Next, I will convert all the rare metals we've gathered over the last 3 years into our fighting strength. He did not intend to delay. He had seen the greed in Long Yewei's eyes, and he knew how contagiously that kind of hunger would spread. He wanted a complete military buildup within a year, fusing the resources of the entire machine beast world into an iron torrent that could sweep everything aside. As Chen Zhou issued the order, the Origin Energy Amethyst floated back into the sky, its purple light breaking into a rain of specks that flowed into the heaps of rare metal. The War King Token became a source of attraction, pulling the liquefied metal into gargantuan cocoons. Each cocoon would birth a machine beast warrior. Their strength and loyalty were were to be the foundation of Chen Zhou's future conquests. Not every machine beast could win the favor of the origin energy amethyst and glow with that purple light, the symbol of primal law. With the energy cores condensed by the War King token feeding them, the machine beast warriors inside the metal shells slowly woke. Through the almost transparent metal, shapes formed, razor claws, heavy plating, nimble limbs. Some carried the fierce soul signatures of the beast race. The heroes recorded in the War King token were almost all famous names across the machine beast world, though from different eras. Bi Baishan, a Thunder Tribe hero, and Huo Wuji, for example, belonged to different ages separated by thousands of years. The origin energy amethyst hovered, pulsing faint purple like a slow breath. Each pulse made the air hum. Below it, countless metal cocoons were lined up. Their cold silver surfaces took on an enigmatic purple sheen under the crystal's light. A sharp crack split the air as the first cocoon fractured. Purple light poured from the seam like liquid, and within a grinding of gears, a mechanical arm extended, every joint smooth and alive with faint violet radiance. When the cocoon burst open, a Thunder Tribe machine beast warrior modeled after a car rose to its feet. Streamlined and silver, its headlights glowed purple as if storing thunder. Then more cocoons cracked. A Mount Tai clan machine beast, styled like a bulldozer, forced its way out, burly, thick mechanical arms that made the ground shiver with each step. An Ice Tribe warrior, designed like a glider, spread crystalline wings that caught and scattered the purple light in 1,000 colors. From the beast race came an armor beast model, encased in heavy plating that clanged with each movement. Species modeled on tigers and leopards sprang out with lithe, powerful limbs and razor claws, ready to hunt. As the energy cores were set, purple currents flowed through them, resonant with the amethyst. Mechanical eyes turned, gears spun as if awakening cognition. It was more than machinery in motion, it was the birth of souls. Over a dozen machine beast warriors stood on the barren plain, their steel forms colossal and imposing like gods bridged between earth and sky. Each body wore different hues: blaze red like fire, ocean deep blue, morning gold, moon silver, ink black, and spring emerald. The colors flashed against one another, a living painting slowly unfolding across the landscape. Their existence was a declaration of power. Every inch of their frames thrummed with combat energy, dormant volcanoes ready to erupt. That energy flowed like a river and roared like thunder. Even unreleased, it made the world tremble. They faced one another, an invisible aura knotting the air between them. It was like two massive waves colliding, sending sprays of force skyward, reaching beyond the clouds. Their gazes were lightning, cold, precise, as if they could pierce illusions and strike the soul itself. In those looks burned both the lust for battle and the will to win, beneath it an underlying respect. Many had been mortal enemies centuries or millennia before, yet they were also each other's greatest witnesses. Only they truly understood each other's power and glory. Then, in perfect unison, more than a dozen warriors dropped to one knee. The synchronization was flawless, as if rehearsed 1,000 times. Their knees hit the earth with a dull boom, as though the ground itself acknowledged the motion. Heads bowed, but their eyes were steady, paying homage to a supreme presence. Greetings, War Mecha King, Mount Tai Clan, Li Ding Xinyuan, willing to die for our Lord. Greetings, War Mecha King, Ice Tribe, Yun Binglan, willing to die for our Lord. Greetings, War Mecha King, Armor Beast Tribe, Scarlet Armored Beast, willing to die for our Lord. And so on, countless oaths of fealty converged into a single cry, My Lord. Their voices rolled like thunder and shook the clouds. Then the most densely woven metal cocoon, the one that shone brightest, erupted with an extraordinary aura. Thousands of wisps of vapor condensed out of the air, and the combat energy that poured off it seemed to press down on the entire world, thickening the air itself. Chen Zhou's eyes snapped to it. The aura that came off that cocoon was staggering, almost on par with Hu Shatian in intensity. It felt like an exceptional existence was about to break free. Fine fissures spidered across the cocoon. Dazzling gold seeped through, as if something golden and immense were about to emerge. Hu Shatian stepped forward and, unable to hide his awe, murmured, Such powerful combat energy. Could it be? Author's note, I said I'd be back by 9, but I'm only starting to write now. I think I can finish about 5 more chapters. Don't expect too much. They'll be posted quite late. Chapter 204. The Sea is Infinite. Hai Wuliang. As the strongest presence on the field, and arguably in this world, Hu Shatian still carried the dignity of a war king, even if the world's limits kept him from fully unleashing his war king power. He stood at the peak of force and bearing. If the Hu Shatian who once conquered cities and territories had been all raw aggression, this Hu Shatian, tempered by betrayal and recovery, and now beyond measurement by ordinary metrics, was even more formidable. A war king like him would not praise lightly. Who could have earned such praise? A golden mecha slowly took shape, flashing like lightning. As the final crack opened, a blinding light burst out. The surrounding air seemed rent by the shockwave, whipping up a violent storm. From that gale stepped a warrior, combat power almost made tangible. A pair of golden eyes swept over the kneeling machine race and beast race machine beast warriors. He strode to the front, toward Chen Zhou. War Mecha King, Wave Clan's Hai Wuliang pledges his life to his lord. His voice rolled like thunder across the plain, shaking the air itself. A surging, oceanic aura followed him, like a tidal wave. Every machine beast warrior present felt it in their chest. Chen Zhou studied the warrior before him, Hai Wuliang, and sensed something beyond raw power, the breadth and depth of the sea itself. Hai Wuliang's whole frame shimmered with golden light, stormy and vast. Every breath carried the momentum of rising winds and surging clouds. He was broad and solid as a fortress. His deep golden eyes were sea-deep, all-encompassing and unfathomable. The first impression Chen Zhou received was simple, arrogant. Hai Wuliang's combat level skirted War King rank, nearly rewriting the machine race's history. A level 19 ranking, peak state recorded in the War King token, he was arguably the strongest beneath a true War King. Hai Wuliang. Ha ha! I didn't expect it to be you. Hu Shatian's magnetic voice rumbled. He shifted into his machine beast warrior form. The gears in his eyes gleamed scarlet. Hai Wuliang did not rise without Chen Zhou's command, but when his gaze cut to Hu Shatian, there was no bowing of the head, only cold, arrogant scrutiny. You little cub of the beast race, do you know me? He asked, pride in every word. Little cub of the beast race, Hu Shatian echoed, amused. He laughed. I finally understand. Your disciple has your temperament exactly. The beast race and the machine race had been mortal enemies in the former machine beast world, so Hu Shatian expected Hai Wuliang's disrespect. But this Hai Wuliang was not the old wise city lord Hu Shatian remembered from Yueshen Palace. He was brash and imperious. My disciple? Hai Wuliang raised an eyebrow, a flicker of doubt passing his golden eyes before arrogance returned. I don't recall having any disciple. Since you mention it, who is this disciple of mine? Hu Shatian chuckled and said slowly, his name is Jisoo Feng. At the name, Hai Wuliang's expression wavered. Something like recognition tried to surface, but it vanished as quickly. No impression. He must be someone I chose late in life. Hu Shatian nodded, as if this confirmed what he expected. Jisoo Feng was indeed your disciple in your later years. His personality matched yours. Arrogant, unrestrained, contemptuous of others. He caused me a lot of trouble back then. Hai Wuliang's mouth curled into a disdainful smile. If what you say is true, then my disciple gave you trouble, but his arrogance is his right. Hu Shatian's face shifted to one of gleeful anticipation, as if savoring an old tale. He did have cause to be arrogant. Do you know what a contribution he made to Yueshen Palace? Yueshen Palace? Hai Wuliang's eyes flashed. It was his territory. The name was not unwelcome. Tell me, Hu Shatian urged. A trace of doubt flickered through Hai Wuliang's golden gaze, then was replaced by mockery. Hu Shatian shook his head in feigned regret and sighed theatrically. What a pity. The famed Hai Wuliang, in the end, sacrificed himself for a young upstart and damned the entire Wave Clan. What do you mean by that? Hai Wuliang's arrogance stiffened into steel. Coldness crept into his eyes. Hu Shatian, what are you saying? Hu Shatian's smile was thin and playful. What do I mean? I mean that after you grew old, your disciple provoked someone he shouldn't have. To cover for Jisoo Feng, you led the warriors of Yueshen Palace to fight to the death against the Beast Race army. You activated your hidden reserves and died on the field. Jisoo Feng escaped under your cover, and Yueshen Palace was ruined. Hai Wuliang's body trembled. The golden light in his mechanical eyes flickered as if processing the accusation. His fingers twitched, as though trying to pull some memory into focus, but his mind offered only blanks. Hu Shatian's words struck like a blade, piercing to a place that hurt but refused to yield an answer. The pain was strange and indescribable, an ache at the core of whatever he once had been. Chapter 205, Spirit Ascension Platform, the key to activating the law. You're telling me I died on the battlefield to cover for a brat? Hai Wuliang's voice was low and hoarse, threaded with disbelief. Hu Shatian nodded, a teasing glint in his eyes. Exactly. You sacrificed yourself for your disciple, and with you the Yuoshen Palace fell. Your disciple, Jisoo Feng, inherited your pride that came with a price. He escaped, but you were left on that field forever. Hai Wuliang's mechanical frame trembled. Anger and unwillingness flared in his golden eyes. He refused to accept that his death had been spent on behalf of some unknown pupil. Was his pride, his strength, his wisdom to be thrown away by a youngster? No. That's impossible, he roared. Battle energy surged through his body as if it might erupt. Hu Shatian's lips curled in satisfaction at the reaction. Chen Zhou watched and shook his head slightly. Hu Shatian's behavior struck him as a little mean, but he could understand why. The Hai Wuliang of old, seasoned by countless campaigns, might have made a different choice. If that older Hai Wuliang had been in the same situation, he might have refused to sacrifice. Yet the aged Hai Wuliang, bound by the Wave Clan's long history of warfare and the chronic lack of new talent, had chosen otherwise, to protect the one disciple most likely to equal him and let him escape. The younger Hai Wuliang, reborn now with the knowledge of future betrayal and the ruin of Yuoshen Palace, was consumed by grief and rage. Enough, Chen Zhou said, his voice calm and steady, but with an undercurrent of force that pulled Hai Wuliang back from the brink. The clarity returned to the mechanical warrior's eyes. He drew a deep breath, and his battle energy slowly ebbed. He looked at Chen Zhou, complicated emotions in his gaze, but he soon recovered his proud bearing. My lord, Hai Wuliang has lost his composure, he said, kneeling on one knee. His voice was low and resolute. But rest assured, my lord, Hai Wuliang will not let history repeat itself. For the Wave Clan and for your cause, I will give everything. I will not fail you. Chen Zhou nodded, his gaze sweeping over the gathered Machine Beast warriors. You were all the heroes of the Machine Beast world. Now, you are reborn for a new mission. The old glories and grudges ended with the destruction of your world. From this day on, you serve me. You will fight for me and help me unify this realm. We obey. The Machine Beast warriors answered as one, voices booming and shaking the air. Chen Zhou nodded in satisfaction and motioned them up. Hai Wuliang, you will join Huowuji to wage the campaign against Douluo continent, he instructed. Hu Shatian, your directions and those of the Golden Claw God remain the same. Within 1 year, I grant you access to resources, Chen Zhou continued. In this barren world, you must train relentlessly. Forge a steel torrent that can sweep all before it. In 1 year, I want to see a force capable of shaking the entire Douluo Star within days. His words rolled over the plain like thunder, authority in every syllable. An army must be an army, not merely a handful of high-level fighters without a middle-level backbone. If you lack the mid-tier cadres to hold and coordinate, large-scale operations collapse. Looking at the seasoned commanders, the backbone of the Machine Beast race, Chen Zhou was confident he could tear this world open like crumbling rock within a year if he used them correctly. As the plan settled over the plain, the atmosphere tightened. The veteran Machine Beast warriors answered in thunder, their mechanical eyes bright with resolve. But Chen Zhou knew the task would be enormous. Soldiers differ from warriors. Without breaking their individual shackles, a soldier's lifelong battle energy rarely reaches level 10. The energy amethyst he wielded could only be distributed sparingly, likely to those core generals and to Hu Shatian, the War King. It could not be wasted on freshly constructed soldiers at level 1. Spirit Transfer Pagoda, Spirit Ascension Platform. I must obtain them. Chen Zhou's expression went cold with resolve. The Spirit Transfer Pagoda ranked among the top powers on Douluo Star. The Spirit Ascension Platform was one of the most crucial regions. Both were central to his plans. The pagoda could provide soul spirits to spirit masters. The Ascension Platform could improve a soul spirit's quality. 3 years earlier, when Chen Zhou first maneuvered the spatial formations to enter that territory, he had already begun arranging for this exact outcome. The War King Token's abnormal movements proved it. If he consumed the world represented by the Spirit Ascension platform, he could reactivate one of the fundamental laws of the old Machine Beast world. That law had driven the incessant wars of the Machine Beast world. After killing a Machine Beast, one could seize its battle energy and absorb it as nourishment to break shackles and grow rapidly. This overturned the previous cultivation methods that relied on moonlight and ambient energy. No Machine Beast could resist the temptation to grow stronger quickly after a kill. Resources were limited, and slaughter became the fastest path to power. This law had left that world awash in endless conflict. Chen Zhou intended to reactivate that law and transplant it to Douluo Star. If successful, his Machine Beast army could grow through combat, each victory fueling further strength, allowing them to multiply powerfully and sweep across the world. He even envisioned taking it a step further, enabling his warriors to siphon battle energy from foreign races instead of cannibalizing their own, breaking combat-level shackles and accelerating growth even more. In that way, his army would feed on battle, grow with every fight, and become an unstoppable steel torrent. Chen Zhou's decision hardened. The Spirit Transfer Pagoda and the Spirit Ascension platform would be his keys to turning that vision into reality. Chapter 206, Arms Race. Half a year, the span of a mecha squad's maintenance cycle, the end of a semester at an academy, or the clearance of an inventory batch at a chamber of commerce, was all it took. In that time, the Jishou Chamber of Commerce set up branches one after another on the Heaven Do continent and the Star Luo continent. Shrek Academy, the Tang Sect, and even the Spirit Transfer Pagoda, institutions that had largely kept to themselves and preached non-interference, completely misread the situation. Their attempt to blockade the East Sea in cooperation with the Sun Moon Federation turned out to be useless. The Douling Empire and the Star Luo Empire embraced the Jishou Chamber of Commerce almost at once, lending it full support. Researchers, security forces, and high-end combat assets, top figures from all fields, appeared as if from nowhere, escorting and accelerating the chamber's expansion. The blockade collapsed under its own weight. What frightened everyone was clear. The Jishou Chamber of Commerce had successfully applied soul guidance technology to people. Its development of war-related soul guidance was mature. Remotely controlled fire control mechas, armed with full-spec tactical spirit tool autocannons, could, in coordinated volleys, encircle and take down an attacking spirit dulo. Unmanned stealth fighter squadrons equipped with advanced spirit tool laser cannons could punch through any anti-air network and deliver decisive strikes on ground targets. Portable spirit tool arrays and massive fortress-grade suppressors could interfere with Spirit Master's power operations. Newly released arrays could even reduce a titled Douluo's spirit power efficiency by 10%. Different spirit tool arrays brought different, powerful special effects, and with the energy devices sold by the Jishou Chamber of Commerce, they could induce gravity spikes, elemental chaos, and spirit power fluctuations. Together, they sketched an unprecedented blueprint for warfare. The words "arms race" were suddenly written across the minds of the three major official forces: the Star Luo Empire and the Douling Empire, long losers in the 1,000-year-old struggle against the Sun Moon Federation, dreamed of returning to strength and avenging their past humiliation. They threw themselves into supporting the Jishou Chamber of Commerce. Metal deposits, research gear, manpower, everything was made available. Unlike the Spirit Transfer Pagoda, which hoarded wealth, or the Tang Sect, which recruited talent but gave little back to its empire, the Jishou Chamber of Commerce genuinely shared its technology. That made all the difference. High imperial officials in both empires quickly recognized the opportunity. They didn't want to be mere partners anymore. They pushed for deeper cooperation, even to the point of offering core national resources and technologies. The Emperor of the Star Luo Empire personally ordered the transfer of his elite spirit tool divisions to the Jishou Chamber of Commerce to aid research and testing of soul guidance technology. The Douling Empire opened its richest rare metal mines for unlimited extraction by the chamber and sent artisans and spirit masters in droves to help build more advanced spirit tools. They knew how risky it was to hand so much to an outside force. No one who rose to high office was foolish. But what other choice did they have? Shrek Academy professed idealism, but meddled in everything without decisive action. The Tang sect was tight-fisted, hoarding spirit tool secrets. The Spirit Transfer Pagoda sat aloof, confident that as long as spirit masters existed and sought to improve, it could hold its ground on Douluo Star. There was little practical help to be had from those quarters. Faced with the Sun-Moon Federation's dominance, the empires had to take a gamble. The Jishou Chamber of Commerce repaid that trust. In only 6 months, 2 joint naval exercises sent the Sun-Moon Federation's military into a state of panic. Its expansion never slowed. With the 2 empires backing, the chamber built up a massive mecha department, producing everything from basic combat mechas to high-end battle platforms. The Sun-Moon Federation's blockade of the East Sea became increasingly toothless. As the Duling and Star Luo armies modernized rapidly with new tactics and equipment, the Sun-Moon garrison in the East Sea was forced onto the defensive, adopting ever more aggressive, yet reactive, strategies. An arms race is a peacetime competition in weaponry and military capability between hostile or potentially hostile states, each treating the other as a hypothetical enemy. Nations expand their arsenals and strengthen forces to prepare for possible future wars, a preventive military confrontation. For a long time, the Sun-Moon Federation had the greater war potential. Vast continental territory, abundant resources, large spirit master legions, established mecha departments, and the war god hall's high-end combat power. Occupying the entire Douluo Star had seemed within reach. Now the balance was broken. Both the Star Luo Empire and the Douling Empire had gained the capacity to contend with the Sun-Moon Federation. Skeptical officials who had doubted the chamber began to see it as a real path to revive national glory. If the Sun-Moon Federation didn't want to face a sudden, devastating attack by the 2 empires one day, it had no choice but to grudgingly accept the new reality. The East Sea's ideological model had changed. The East Sea Legion was effectively controlled by the Jishou Chamber of Commerce, and the chamber itself had become an unavoidable power. Otherwise, the Federation risked being left behind by the rapid advancement of soul guidance technology. As for the Tang sect and its long list of promises, who, in the position of a beaten opponent, had the right to complain? If they had the ability, they should put their spirit tool secrets to use for the Empire. No shelter, no excuses, no tips today. Tomorrow's extra chapter situation. Popularity bonus, 378,250, plus 1 chapter. Average subscription bonus, 4343, plus 1 chapter. Tip bonus, 438,500. Not met, no extra chapter. Still owe 11 chapters, plus 3 basic chapters, total 16 chapters. Some readers said they wanted to create a group, which is fine, but please mind your words and actions after joining the group. Group number 3052747. Chapter 207, Shrek Academy Training Incident. When the greater interests were harmed and it hit home, old grievances ceased to matter. The Jishou Chamber of Commerce and the Sun-Moon Federation had finalized their cooperation. It was telling that when Che Taiyan, acting as the chamber's foreign minister, contacted members of the Sun-Moon Federation Council, the council was left stunned. So you retired to your hometown and came back as the client-side Dragon King? They seemed to ask, incredulous. In the weeks that followed, the Jishou Chamber of Commerce spread across the Douluo continent like a storm. With the Sun-Moon Federation's official blessing, the chamber quickly dominated the East Sea market and then expanded continent-wide, building a vast industry chain around soul guidance technology and military production. Mechas, spirit tools, and supporting facilities sprouted in city after city, drawing investors and entrepreneurs in droves. The Star Luo Empire and the Duling Empire stepped up their backing as well. Senior officials of both nations began to realize the chamber was not merely a commercial enterprise, but a force capable of reshaping power on the Douluo continent. An arms race had quietly begun among the 3 great powers. North Sea Legion Headquarters. I apologize for not meeting you at the gate, Shen Yue said as she rose from the sofa and smiled at the young man before her, entirely ingratiating. Had I known Mr. Chen Zhou would visit the North Sea Legion today, I would have welcomed you personally. Please forgive my rudeness. Shen Yue was only 36, but already a federal lieutenant general and Legion commander of the North Sea Legion, the sort of ideal leader many young officers admired in secret. Yet in front of this visitor, she humbled herself, betraying none of her usual pride. The visitor was Chen Zhou. Though only 14, alchemy potions and a primordial energy amethyst had accelerated his development. His body was fully matured, stocky, and powerful. Hard to believe he was only a boy. As a key partner to the Sun-Moon Federation, especially in military affairs, and as one of the Jisho Chamber's most important figures and designated heirs, Chen Zhou's face was practically memorized by every Legion commander. No one wanted to risk delaying the delivery of new equipment. "What brings you to the North Sea Legion, young Master Chen Zhou?" Shen Yue asked, holding her teacup with a practiced smile that nonetheless revealed a hint of tension. Chen Zhou nodded once. "I've come because of the recurring thefts of fighter jets from your flight base. I wanted to look into that." Shen Yue's expression tightened. As both commander of the North Sea Legion and deputy commander of the Northeast Military Region, she knew the delicate nature of the incidents that had plagued her legion for years, the so-called Shrek Academy training incident. It was a scandal that had left lingering wounds. By tradition, the Shrek Seven Devils were sent to a mysterious island in the North Sea for training. The island was distant, surrounded by strange energies, and not reachable by ordinary means. Several times, commanders had launched investigations only to return empty-handed. In some cases, a group of Shrek Academy students had shown up on the North Sea Island after apparently using stolen fighter jets to reach it. The thought that students might have hijacked Federation fighters, some of them the newest models armed with spirit tool cannons, was explosive. Each time such incidents were reported, the chain of command yielded. The students were treated as blameless, and higher-ups suppressed the investigations. Once, a North Sea Legion commander, refusing to accept being pushed aside, personally intercepted a flight plan he believed belonged to a batch of Shrek Seven Devils students. The confrontation turned violent. 2 students died. The Shrek Academy erupted in outrage and retaliated. Because the attack had been meant to uphold Federation authority, the officials involved expected backing, but instead the Federation turned away, appeasing the Academy. Those commanders were left exposed and, in effect, handed over to the Academy's retribution. Appeals for justice were quashed. The Federation claimed the matter was misunderstood and refused to press it further. The fallout was devastating. The Federation's conscription drives fell into disarray. Morale in the North Sea Legion plummeted. Many young officers, unwilling to be scapegoats in political storms, chose to leave the military or move to quieter posts. Those who tried to speak out were politically suppressed, and military planning became muddled. The heart of the problem lay not entirely with the Federation alone, but with how an academy had become a power that transcended institutional order. "Speak freely here," Shen Yu said softly, folding her hands. "But once you step through that door, this conversation becomes a sealed file." She sighed, eyes clouded with a sadness that went beyond professional frustration. "Don't you find it absurd that a sovereign government bows to an academy?" She paused, collecting herself. A few years ago, when Council Member Che Taian, one of the most outspoken and honest voices in the Federal Council, left, I was conflicted. His courage was admirable, and it reminded me of my own naivete. I used to be a soldier full of ideals. Then came the so-called greater good directives and warnings. I learned how wide the gulf is between ideals and reality. The Sun-Moon Federation, its predecessor, the Sun-Moon Empire, once crushed the 3 original empires of the Douluo continent. Imagine that glory. And now, that empire has decayed to the point where even its legions must tread carefully, afraid to provoke an academy that can muster private armies. To think that, after 10,000 years, an academy can arbitrarily retaliate against federal officials in the human world. It feels like a betrayal of our ancestors. Chen Zhou listened, his expression unreadable. Outside the windows, the North Sea spread cold and vast, a reminder of the strange island and the dangerous unresolved ties between the academy and the military. Shen Yue's words hung in the room, The Sun Moon Federation still had power, but sometimes power was powerless against forces that operated beyond its laws and traditions. The conversation marked another knot in a growing tapestry of tension between tradition and modern industry, between academies and states, and between those willing to enforce order and those who would trade it away in the name of a nebulous, greater good. The North Sea Legion's wounds had not healed, and the continent's future was only becoming more uncertain. Chapter 208, Extinction Demon Island. Chen Zhou listened quietly to Shen Yue's lament, aware of the invisible weight and responsibility she carried as Legion commander. He let her speak for a while, then offered a small smile and interrupted. General Shen, I've heard enough of your complaints. Coincidentally, there's something I need to discuss. My purpose for this trip is that little island. I think very soon you won't have to worry about the so-called Shrek 7 Devils at Shrek Academy coming here for their inheritance rituals. After learning the full situation, Chen Zhou had no hesitations about taking action. This may be abrupt, but if the Jishou Chamber of Commerce moves on that island, Shrek Academy will not just stand by. Shen Yue drew a deep breath, stunned. Chen Zhou's objective was the entire island. What benefit could an island soaked in destructive energy possibly be to the Jishou Chamber of Commerce? Acting on it would only bring Shrek Academy's wrath down upon them. Yet she remembered how even the once powerful Tang sect had been beaten silent by the Jishou Chamber of Commerce. Its living space squeezed across the continent, its once renowned techniques reduced to nothing. 3 years ago, the Tang sect's vice sect master had lost an arm, and the masters of the Du Soul, Power, and Speed halls had been killed. Even now, Jishou's people swaggered through Tang sect branches in every city and met no retaliation. Young Master Chen Zhou, are you sure you really intend to go to that island? Shen Yu asked, her face grave and uneasy. Yes. Chen Zhou smiled faintly. Since we're speaking openly, General Shen Yue, could you tell me where the island lies? I want to go and take a look. Are you really decided? Shen Yue asked again. A complex emotion passed through her eyes. The island was dangerous and shrouded in Shrek Academy's strict protections. If Jishou interfered, it would spark a conflict without precedent. Chen Zhou's gaze was steady. Jishou Chamber of Commerce never acts without confidence. That island matters to us. If Shrek Academy wants to stop us, let them come. Shen Yue was silent for a long beat, then finally nodded. Since you've made up your mind, I won't dissuade you. The island lies deep in the North Sea. Fly north. After several dozen kilometers, you'll find an archipelago wrapped in a pitch-black sea area. That's where Shrek Academy holds their inheritance rituals after selecting the Shrek 7 Devils. Chen Zhou inclined his head, a deeper light flashing in his eyes. Thank you for the directions, General Shen. He stood and smiled, calm and composed. The rest will be handled by Jishou Chamber of Commerce. Shen Yue watched him go with a mixture of anticipation and dread. She knew that if a conflict broke out between Jishou and Shrek Academy, it would become a storm sweeping across the Douluo continent. As North Sea Legion commander, she felt vulnerable. She had just given Chen Zhou the coordinates. Chen Zhou walked to the North Sea Legion camp gate and boarded a gilded patrol car. When the vehicle accelerated, he shifted into the motorcycle form that Hai Wuliang had become. From inside the motorcycle, a familiar, excited voice spoke. Hai Wuliang, you've been cooped up for half a year. Today, there will be a battle. Any problems? Chen Zhou asked lightly. Of course not, Master, Hai Wuliang replied, exhilarated. I've been going crazy these last 6 months. Chen Zhou smiled faintly and fixed his gaze on the deepening sea ahead. He wasn't worried about Hai Wuliang facing the 7 old fellows on Extinction Demon Island. After viewing the World Core's memories, he already knew where the island lay, but he had gone to Shen Yue for something else. Partly to see how Shrek Academy would react if Jishou invaded what they considered their own domain. If he destroyed Extinction Demon Island, what would Shrek Academy do? Chen Zhou's smile hinted at the thought. Sun Moon Federation, this time, would you continue to swallow your anger, or would you finally stand your ground? He pushed the thought aside. Hai Wuliang's speed was incredible. In an instant, they were over the North Sea. The wind howled and the waves rose, but Chen Zhou kept his eyes on the dark sea ahead. There, across the water, lay the pitch-black area that marked Extinction Demon Island. As they neared, a heavy, suppressive aura washed over them. It was a destructive force so intense the air seemed to thicken and breathing became difficult. Hai Wuliang changed back to human form in midair. His gilded hair blew like a banner, his flamboyant manner suited his arrogance. His muscular body pulsed with power as he hovered, eyes burning toward the dark shore. "We've arrived, Master," he announced. The island appeared as if swallowed by an endless darkness. Ink-black trees and vegetation covered every inch. The ground felt cold and leaden, exhaling a disturbing aura. A black mist saturated the air. There was no trace of heaven and earth origin energy. Life itself seemed erased. Even the wind moved with effort, as though suppressed by the island's gloom. Encircling the land was a boundless black sea. Waves smashed the shore with a low, hollow roar. The water looked like a yawning abyss, ready to swallow anything that neared. Yet beneath this deadened surface, there was a contradictory energy. The deeper they probed, the more a potent life force began to seep up, like a hidden flame beneath ash. That force seemed to surge from deep in the earth, sharply at odds with the surface's silence. "The aura of laws," Chen Zhou murmured. It was this miraculous presence of law fragments, shards of destruction and life, that had drawn him. His purpose here was simple: to take those fragments and use them to perfect the earliest stage of the heaven and earth refining meditation method. He had grown impatient. The two brainless empires on the Douluo and Star Luo continents had opened his eyes, entrusting resources and technology to unknown forces, handing military gear and legions to the Jishou Chamber of Commerce. That was madness. He had no intention of waiting while such fools misallocated power. If Shrek Academy noticed what he intended, how would they respond? Chen Zhou's smile widened, unreadable. Hai Wuliang floated forward, eager, and together they prepared to penetrate the island's darkness. There was no contest. The whole thing was absurd. It was impossible to understand how such an empire could exist in this world. It reminded Chen Zhou of the first time he had read the history of the Sun-Moon Federation. How could a federation that controlled an entire continent's resources be restrained by a single academy? If that was the case, why not bring the so-called war forward? For the sake of his Douluo Star, Chen Zhou had come early to use fragments of the laws of destruction and life to complete the initial stage of the heaven and earth refining meditation method. That would allow the mass production, at minimal cost, of alchemical medicines that improve innate spirit power, the awakening, enlightenment, and sublimation pills. Only by raising the average level of thought and potential could he secure enough resources to support his exploration of different dimensions. Hai Wuliang, there are 7 below who are neither human nor ghost. Let them rest, Chen Zhou said, calm and resolute. Hai Wuliang paused, then his face lit up. This is exactly the moment I've been waiting for. He waved his hands, and the air around them seemed to ignite. His figure expanded, golden armor flared like a war god descending. In the dark hollows of Seclusion Island, 7 shadowy forms circled around an intense fluctuation of life energy. They were indistinct, composed of black mist and shadow, and radiated an oppressive dread. These were the Devouring Old Demon, Desire Old Demon, Nightmare Old Demon, Ruin Old Demon, Hatred Old Demon, Laziness Old Demon, and Greed Old Demon, what remained of the Shrek 7 devils, torn apart by the destructive energy of the fragments of destruction. Though left without bones, their life energy had formed spirit bodies, imprisoned on Seclusion Island to teach successive generations at Shrek Academy. Come then, receive true power. Hai Wuliang's voice rolled across the island like thunder, breaking its deathly silence. The 7 old demons had not expected it. No sooner had Hai Wuliang appeared than his fists struck like a tidal wave. Though the planet's damaged world core limited Machine Beast Warrior combat energy to no more than level 18, rank still mattered. Hai Wuliang, the Mech tribe's foremost fighter, delivered a single, devastating blow. His power descended like a god's, shaking Seclusion Island to its foundations. The 7 spirit bodies, once mighty, looked brittle under that impact. The black mists shredded and scattered into fragments across the ground. The island itself trembled. Their consciousnesses reformed, drawing on the faint understanding of destruction and life they had gained over 4,000 years. and they could not comprehend that such a young man could wield such power. Gilded halberds materialized in Hai Wuliang's hands. The sea surged into a tsunami that crashed against Seclusion Island. The seven could only watch as despair and fury rose inside them. "Who are you?" Ruin Old Demon rasped, fear threading his voice. "Why are you here? Isn't this Shrek Academy's territory?" Hai Wuliang tilted his head, arrogance undimmed. "I don't care whether it's Shrek's or not. The dead should stay dead. This half-alive state is unsettling. Presumptuous. Arrogant." The seven retaliated, condensing their power with the law of destruction. Their energy, nearly at Super Douluo level, carried an aura meant to tear him apart. Hai Wuliang only smiled wider. Golden light flared from him like the sun. He lifted the halberds and pointed them at the seven. "Arrogance has its price, and I collect it," he declared. "Heaven-shaking wave kill." The island felt as though it were being swallowed. The halberds carved golden arcs through the air, bringing the force of an ocean in full swell. The destructive cores the seven had gathered proved as fragile as tissue against Hai Wuliang's assault. They shredded and dissipated. "How is this possible?" Ruin Old Demon cried in horror. The attack did not relent. Each stroke of the halberds carried the power to sunder heaven and earth, ruthlessly crushing the spirit bodies. Seclusion Island split with countless chasms. The ground threatened to give way. Hai Wuliang slammed the halberds together and drove them down. With an earth-shattering roar, the island collapsed into rubble and plunged into the dark sea. The seven spirit bodies disintegrated and could not reform. Chen Zhou stood beside Hai Wuliang, watching without a ripple of surprise. Everything unfolded as he expected. "My lord, mission complete," Hai Wuliang reported, sheathing his halberds with a trace of pride. Chen Zhou nodded, his eyes fixed on the sinking island. "Next, collect the law fragments." With the island's collapse, the life energy surge at its core became even clearer. Chen Zhou felt the strange power of intertwined destruction and life, the very thing he had come for. He raised his hand and a purple crystal appeared in his palm, the original energy amethyst. It pulsed softly, resonating with the life energy. "Go," he said. The amethyst floated toward the source. The life energy seemed drawn to it, converging rapidly. The destructive power deep in the island stirred, resisting, unwilling to be consumed. But against the original energy amethyst, even that resistance was trivial. The destructive force was ultimately devoured, and law energy, destruction braided with life, poured into Chen Zhou's soul. Chapter 210, Wind, Fire, Earth, and Water, Perfected. Within Chen Zhou's spiritual world, the earth lay steady, the ocean stretched boundless, and gentle breezes kept everything in motion. As the law energies of destruction and life drew near, the wounded soul deep in the spiritual sea opened its eyes. Its crimson gold gaze unleashed an irresistible force. With a single look, the scattered law fragments that had been so important across the Douluo continent disintegrated into powder, turning into pure law power that flooded the spiritual world. Fire represents destruction and also rebirth. Earth, fire, wind, water. The four fundamental spiritual runes of the Heaven and Earth refining meditation method, earth and water, had already been inscribed in the spiritual core, and wind was steadily taking shape. With the infusion of pure law power, a new rune, fire, instantly manifested throughout the entire spiritual world. Scorching and ferocious, fire embodied both ruin and regeneration. Under the combined influence of the laws of destruction and life, the fire rune did not drift aimlessly. It surged forward, and its inscription in the spiritual core quickly surpassed winds. The stable earth and the mountain ranges had once felt barren. The boundless ocean had been apprehensive and inward. But when the flames rose, when destruction and life began to weave together in this nascent world, the entire spiritual plane was injected with fresh vitality. Flames swept over the land, bringing the force of destruction that turned desolation into ash, and from that ash, new life sprouted. Fierce winds carried the aftermath of the flames far and wide. Fire and wind intertwined into a raging firestorm that swept the spiritual world. The inscription of fire accelerated wind's own inscription. When wind, fire, earth, and water, the four elemental runes that form a world's foundation, were fully inscribed in the spiritual core, time itself seemed unnecessary. Wind's inscription completed rapidly, driven by the synergy of the four. The entire spiritual world activated at once. The powers of the four elements braided and merged inside the core, creating a perfect circulatory system. Chen Zhou's spiritual world underwent a seismic change. The previously barren earth sprouted verdant life. Countless beings filled the boundless ocean, and fierce winds and flames danced between heaven and earth in a wondrous balance. The world awakened from a death-like silence and radiated vibrant life. As the four runes finished their inscriptions, Chen Zhou's spiritual world stabilized. The damaged soul within him was partially repaired. Its crimson gold gaze deepened as if it could see through all illusions. The remaining law power was completely consumed by the soul. Fragments that had circled it were reabsorbed, and the cracks on the soul's surface lessened, though traces remained. Chen Zhou knew this was only the preliminary stage of the heaven and earth refining meditation method. True, complete repair would take much longer. Still, this was a major step. His spiritual world was stable, and his soul had taken a decisive stride toward restoration. "My lord, how do you feel?" Hai Wuliang asked from beside him, unable to hide the rising excitement at the aura growing stronger around Chen Zhou. Chen Zhou smiled faintly, his gaze calm and deep. "Very good. Better than I expected." Hai Wuliang nodded, eyes glittering. "My lord, what shall we do next?" Chen Zhou looked toward the horizon and answered evenly. "With Seclusion Island destroyed, Shrek Academy won't let this go. Then we should take the initiative and rid the Federation of that blood-sucking tumor." Hai Wuliang's eyes flashed with killing intent. He grinned, a smile edged with cruelty and exhilaration. "Shrek Academy should have been taken care of long ago. They've been bullying old Huo just because he's cultured. If it were me, I'd have wiped that insolent academy off the map ages ago." Chen Zhou shook his head. "No rush. The Federation may be happy to see Seclusion Island fall, but not all forces within it will welcome such a turn of events." Hai Wuliang blinked, not quite grasping the distinction between the Federation's official stance and its internal divisions. Chen Zhou replied casually, "Some of the Federation's pillars and major figures are loyal to Shrek Academy." Hai Wuliang, a city lord by his own rise, wasn't slow, but even he was startled by such internal contradictions. "So the Sun Moon Federation's internal problems are far more complex than they look on the surface," he muttered. "I don't see how it's lasted this long." Chen Zhou's expression stayed composed. "It doesn't matter. When the time comes, we'll tear it down and rebuild." He quoted the old adage in spirit. "I am not yet strong, but once I am, there will be change." Now, with the Jishou Chamber of Commerce fully formed, they would either remain hidden or launch a world-stunning first move. Hai Wuliang's eyes lit up at the idea. He loved war, and the prospect of a conflict that could overturn the Douluo continent's balance thrilled him. But Chen Zhou spoke with a calm restraint, as if everything were already under control. He wanted every potential opponent within the Federation to reveal themselves. Better to let enemies expose their cards than to hunt them down one by one. Shrek Academy. Tang Sect, Spirit Transfer Pagoda, Holy Spirit Cult, Sun Moon Federation. If Shrek Academy suffered heavy losses, who would try to curb Chen Zhou's rise? And who would swarm in like hyenas to take their share? What a fascinating drama. A playful glint flashed in Chen Zhou's eyes, and the corner of his mouth curled into a cold smile. He turned to Hai Wuliang. "Let's go. Time to return." "Yes, my lord." Hai Wuliang bowed respectfully, then transformed into a motorcycle and carried Chen Zhou as they sped toward the continent. Far away, at Shrek Academy, a storm was already brewing. The collapse of Seclusion Island was a thunderbolt to the Academy. The island had been both the training ground of the Shrek Seven Devils and one of the Academy's core inheritances. With the island gone and the seven old demons missing, Shrek Academy had taken a potentially fatal blow. Chapter 211, Yun Ming's Fury. Inside the Sea God Pavilion, the air was so heavy it felt suffocating. High-ranking members of Shrek Academy filled the hall, their faces etched with shock and anger. The collapse of Seclusion Island and the disappearance of the seven old demons had happened so suddenly that no one had time to react. "Investigate. Find out immediately who did this," the pavilion master barked. At the main seat sat Yun Ming, Heaven Do Douluo, acknowledged as the strongest man on Douluo Star and the highest authority of Shrek Academy. His face was so dark it looked as if it might drip. His voice was deep and cold, carrying naked killing intent. Yes, Pavilion Master, a black-robed sea god pavilion member responded, standing and turning to leave. This matter is probably not simple, someone cautioned. Kaiyuer frowned. Seclusion Island is the home of the seven old demons. The island holds fragments of the laws of destruction and life. Every generation of the Shrek Seven Devils has trained there. Everyone knows what we've learned. She looked at Yunming. That's divine-level law power. Even if the seven old demons had died, I wouldn't be this shocked. But now the entire Seclusion Island, the so-called Extinction Demon Island, has been wiped out and its law energy completely absorbed. Do you think ordinary people can do this? Yunming was silent for a moment. A solemnness flashed across his features before he slowly raised his head and let his gaze sweep the pavilion, finally resting on Kaiyuer. I cannot. His voice was deep and resolute, threaded with helplessness and unwillingness. The law power on Seclusion Island, even I cannot easily disturb it. Whoever wiped out the entire island and absorbed or annihilated its law power must have strength beyond our comprehension. The hall grew even quieter. Everyone realized this was no ordinary incident. It might involve a force beyond their understanding. Could there still be gods on the Douluo plane? One member dared to ask. Impossible, another voice replied, but Yunming only shook his head and answered cautiously. Theoretically, my mental force has reached the god origin realm, the threshold people call crossing the limit, the pseudo-god realm. Yet even I can feel the terror of those laws of destruction and life. Those fragments were left by God King, level existences. They are not easily shaken. Whoever did this must be an individual whose spirit, mental force, and physical body have all reached God level, and who may even have established their own God position. At that, silence fell over the sea god pavilion. God level, an almost mythic realm. Since the disappearance of the god realm thousands of years ago, no true god-level stronghold had appeared on the Douluo continent. Even peak figures like Yunming had only touched its edge. The gap to a real god level was enormous. If it really was a god-level opponent, how should Shrek Academy respond? Someone asked, unease plain in his voice. Yunming was quiet for a long beat before he spoke, measured and unyielding. No matter who the opponent is, no matter how strong, Shrek Academy will not back down. We carry tens of thousands of years of glory and responsibility. We will not allow anyone to trample on that. His authority and conviction filled the hall. He understood the weight on his shoulders. Shrek Academy was more than an institution. It was the guardian of the Douluo continent, a symbol of honor forged by generations who bled and died for it. Whatever enemy approached, the Academy had to stand firm. Activate the Academy's highest alert. All students and teachers are to be readied immediately. Contact the Tang Sect, the Spirit Transfer Pagoda, and our other allies. Tell them what we suspect, Yunming ordered. Yes, Pavilion Master, the members answered in unison and hurried out to carry out the commands. With Yunming at the helm, they felt they had nothing to fear. With Shrek Academy standing tall, they would face any foe. But beneath his composed exterior, Yunming felt the pressure. The collapse of Seclusion Island and the disappearance of the seven old demons suggested a storm the continent had never seen. After the others left, only Yunming and Yali remained in the pavilion. As Vice Pavilion Master and his partner, Yali could not miss the strain in his expression. No matter how legendary the man, known as the #1 Douluo, able to prop up the heavens and explore the netherworld, facing a suspected true god-level opponent weighed on anyone. Mingay, are you all right? Yali asked softly, concern in her eyes. Yunming drew a long breath and slowly nodded, though his brow stayed tightly furrowed. I'm fine. It's only, this matter is too strange. I have the feeling there's a larger conspiracy behind it. His voice was low and weary. Yali squeezed his hand. No matter what happens, I'll be by your side. Shrek Academy has weathered tens of thousands of years of storms and never fallen. We won't fall this time either. Yunming met her gaze and the slightest spark of resolve lit his eyes. You're right. Shrek Academy will not fall. Whoever the enemy is, we will fight to the end. Chapter 212, Jisho Chamber of Commerce. Hai Wuliang. Yunming and Yali were still talking in the Sea God Pavilion when a burst of hurried footsteps echoed from the hall. A pavilion member stumbled in, face drained of color, breath coming fast. Pavilion Master, he blurted out. It's bad. We just received word. The Tang sect's Heaven Do branch has been attacked. The vice sect leader, Zhang Xin, is on the verge of death. He sent me to ask the Holy Spirit cult for help. What? Yunming sprang to his feet, shock flickering across his features. The Tang sect had been in decline. After suffering heavy losses at the hands of the Jishou Chamber of Commerce, they had kept a low profile and pulled back their forces. Even so, a shrunken Tang sect was still one of the top powers in the world. For someone to seriously wound Zhang Xin and slaughter their people, this was no ordinary raid. Was it the Holy Spirit cult? Yunming asked immediately. The pavilion member shook his head, voice trembling. No, the Tang sect reported that there was only one attacker, and he claimed to be from the Jishou Chamber of Commerce. Jishou Chamber of Commerce? Yunming's brow knit, confusion and alarm mixing on his face. Mingge, we don't have time, Yali warned from the side. Vice Sect Master Zhang Xin's life is at stake. Yunming snapped himself into action. Notify the Sea God Pavilion. Vice Pavilion Master Long Yeyue will stay at the Academy. All other Super Douluo and above, prepare to move out with me. There was no time to hesitate. The Tang sect had been an important ally of Shrek Academy. If its Heaven Do branch were destroyed now, any future cooperation against the Jishou Chamber of Commerce would become that much harder. 1 hour earlier, Heaven Do City. Outside the Tang sect's main gate, a man with golden hair stood casually, eyes fixed on the plaque that read Tang Sect. A cold, contemptuous smile crossed his face. Tang Sect, will it become history today? He murmured. Then he threw a single casual punch. The attack carried an endpoint-rending power, an invisible wind that seemed to tear the air itself. It slammed into the ancient gate of the Tang Sect. Boom! The heavy gate exploded into dust. The shock unseated tiles and shook the buildings behind it. Dust billowed up. The Tang sect's Heaven Do branch was plunged into chaos in an instant. Enemy attack! To arms! Tang sect disciples surged out, scrambling to respond. But the newcomer that appeared before them, the sight of him froze their courage. Hai Wuliang stood at the ruined gate, a cold smile playing on his lips, his gaze sweeping the frightened cultivators like he was surveying ants. A crushing aura emanated from him, as if the heavens themselves bowed. Tang sect. Nothing more than this, he said, voice flat and mocking. From the depths of the Tang sect, a figure flashed forward. Li Yunjie, long spear in hand, eyes sharp as lightning. Li Yunjie was the former head of the Douling Empire branch and a level 97 Super Douluo, known as Cold Light Douluo. After the Jishou Chamber of Commerce expanded into the other continents and the Tang sect was heavily damaged, many branches had been withdrawn back to Douluo continent. Li Yunjie had returned to defend Heaven Do. Who are you, and why do you attack my Tang sect without cause? He demanded, voice booming with authority. Hai Wuliang sneered. His gaze cut across Li Yunjie like a knife. Without cause, this place you stand on is a massive mecha production and processing facility. In a populated city like Heaven Do, your Tang sect has nearly hollowed out the entire underground. Tell me, what crime is that? After dealing with Extinction Demon Island, Chen Zhou had ordered Hai Wuliang to carry out a strike on this core Tang sect site. The Tang sect had indeed hollowed out huge subterranean spaces beneath Heaven Do City, production lines for mechas, and research teams working non-stop on soul-guided war technology. You, Li Yunjie started, aghast. Nonsense. You can't accuse my Tang sect of baseless crimes, others cried. Li Yunjie's face went pale. Even the stern rebuke couldn't hide his fear. The Tang sect's secret base beneath Heaven Do was a closely guarded secret. Only the very highest ranks knew of it. And yet this stranger had exposed their greatest conspiracy with a single sentence. Hai Wuliang's lips curled in contempt. Do you really think your secrets stay hidden? The Tang sect is a relic of an old era. Today, I will wipe you from the world. Before Li Yunjie could react, Hai Wuliang had vanished from sight and reappeared right in front of him. A single punch, carrying the same world-shattering force, struck Li Yunjie in the chest. The spear flashed up in an instinctive block, but the force overwhelmed it, snapping the weapon from his hand. Li Yunjie flew like a broken kite and smashed into the Tang sect wall, spitting blood. Against Hai Wuliang, a Super Douluo was nothing more than a single blow. Li Yunjie staggered to his feet, eyes wide with disbelief. He had been a proud level 97 Super Douluo. How could he be so utterly outmatched? His voice trembled. You, who are you? Jisho Chamber of Commerce, Hai Wuliang. The answer was delivered without ceremony. Hai Wuliang set his boot down hard on the ground. With the Tang sect headquarters as the epicenter, the earth trembled as if something enormous was stirring beneath the city. Cracks spidered across the streets. Giant fissures opened, tearing the ground apart and exposing the hidden caverns below. Thousands of mechas, idle and in standby, were unearthed, suddenly revealed to the world. At that moment, Chen Zhou's plan was essentially complete. The secret underground facilities, the mecha production lines, the soul-guided war research, everything the Tang sect had hidden beneath Heavendew City lay exposed, naked beneath the sun. The attack was a total, undeniable revelation. Chapter 213, Forced Abdication. Forced abdication, you Federation so proudly claim to be for the people. Shrek Academy boasts it protects the continent's peace. What will you do now that the Tang sect's combat mechs have been laid bare? How interesting, very interesting. Beneath Heavendew City, the Tang sect's underground headquarters lay open to the world. Production lines, research equipment, and countless prototypes collapsed in the tremors. Smoke and dust billowed into the air. The city above seemed to have been thrown into the heart of a catastrophe. No, this can't be happening. Li Yunja's eyes were bloodshot as he watched the Tang sect's work, their legacy of millennia, turn to ruin in an instant. He tried to stand, but Hai Wuliang's pressure pressed down on him like a mountain, pinning him to the ground. Hai Wuliang observed coldly, a cruel smile playing on his lips. From today on, the Tang sect will be history. From deep within the Tang sect's complex, a figure shot forward, Zhang Xin, the vice sect master. Pale-faced, eyes blazing with fury and despair, he knew better than anyone the importance of the secret base under Heavendew City. It was the Tang sect's hope for revival. Now all of that lay in ash beneath Hai Wuliang's hands. Jisho Chamber of Commerce, you've gone too far. Zhang Xin's voice trembled with rage and desperation. Hai Wuliang's smile remained icy. Too far? Every time the Federation pressured the Tang sect over the years, you sold arms to the other two great empires. Do you think the Jisho Chamber didn't find out? Our soul guidance technology had already uncovered your weapon deals. Panic washed across Zhang Xin's face. He had never imagined the Tang sect's clandestine arms trades in the other empires would be discovered by the Jisho Chamber. To maintain status and resources through decades of suppression, the Tang sect had indeed carried out illicit transactions, arms deals to secure supplies and allies. If those deals were exposed, the Tang sect would face a catastrophe. The Federation would never tolerate a faction secretly trading weapons. The other two empires, cooperating with the Jisho Chamber, would make the Tang sect's crimes public. The sect would lose public favor completely. Even the Tang sect's influence within the Federation and its ties to military factions could not withstand such disgrace. The moment the underground world of Heavendew City was exposed, the Tang sect would be shunned by the world. Zhang Xin thought frantically, suddenly fixating on one desperate plan. The Tang sect had bled for the Federation. Its sect master was fighting on the front lines of the Abyss Plane even now. If they could block the news, if they could kill the one before him, there might still be a chance to save the sect. Killing intent surged. Maddened, Zhang Xin drew the lover sword and lunged at Hai Wuliang. At the same time, under his telepathic command, a phalanx of black-grade mechs came to life. Tang sect disciples snapped into cockpits, their eyes wide with fury, ready to launch a final desperate attack. Black-grade mechs were the Tang sect's deadliest weapons, each with combat power approaching that of a titled Douluo. Hundreds of them activated at once, the air over Heavendew City thrumming with terrifying energy. Hai Wuliang remained unruffled. The cruel smile did not leave his face. The black-grade mechs looked to him like children's toys. Zhang Xin rushed forward, the lover domain activating around him. Using the sword as conduit and his heart as compass, he wrapped the space in a suffocating energy. Time and space seemed to freeze. The ground and air trembled, forming an impenetrable barrier. He poured out the spirit power of a 99th level limit Douluo, a sword light, saturated with regret and intent, hissed forward. As a special spirit, the lover's sword could channel emotion into influence, creating a suppressive domain designed to weaken Hai Wuliang and create an opening. Pathetic, Hai Wuliang said with disdain. He leaned forward, and the space around him warped like water. The air rippled, invisible waves formed. When you swing a sword, just swing it. No need for the theatrics. Two halberds materialized in Hai Wuliang's hands. He raised his right arm and brought it down in a casual strike. That single motion obliterated the lover domain, the halberds cleaving through the swordlight and driving straight for Zhang Xin. Boom. The collision roared like thunder. The sky seemed to convulse. Surrounding structures toppled, filling the air with dust and wreckage. Zhang Xin felt an abyssal despair as his sword momentum was crushed by this stranger's overwhelming power. His spirit was struck so hard his head spun. Is that all the Vice Sect Master has? Hai Wuliang mocked. He planted his foot and swung the halberds again. A brilliant golden blade light formed and streaked toward Zhang Xin. Zhang Xin shouted and tried to dodge, but he was a beat too slow. The blade cut into his shoulder. Blood spurted, agony flaring. He staggered, nearly collapsing. His sword momentum was shattered. The black-grade mechs, seeing their leader falter, locked weapons and prepared to strike back. Hai Wuliang didn't even glance at them. He looked down at the injured Zhang Xin, then at the mech pilots, his gaze cold. "Your turn," he said. "Shocking waves of slaughter." Hai Wuliang's voice rolled like thunder over Heaven Dew City. As he roared, an invisible force swept the city. His gilded halberds carved the sky, unleashing waves of power like a catastrophic tidal surge between heaven and earth. The black-grade mechs, magnificent and terrifying in their own right, were torn apart as if they were made of paper, ripped into shreds and dissipating into the air. The Tang sect's elite pilots had no time to scream before they were annihilated by Hai Wuliang's world-crushing might. Chapter 214, The Hopeless Tang Sect. "No, it's impossible." Zhang Xin collapsed to the ground, coughing up a mouthful of congealed blood before going completely limp. Hai Wuliang sheathed his paired halberds with a bored flick, a cold sneer playing on his lips at opponents who hadn't even forced him to take them seriously. He walked slowly toward Zhang Xin, his gaze icy as if looking at a corpse. "The Tang sect is nothing but this," he said. His voice rang out over Heaven Dew City, heavy with contempt and mockery. He kicked Zhang Xin's body aside, sending it skidding into the nearest towering skyscraper to demonstrate his strength. "This is Hai Wuliang. Heaven Dew City no longer has any resistance. You can start looting the Tang sect now." He put away his communicator and flew up into the sky, hovering high above the city with a casual menace. The Jisho Chamber of Commerce had already activated contingency plans. The Mech Tribe, Thunder Tribe, Wave Clan, and Mount Tai Clan swarmed in, moving with purpose to secure the Tang sect's exposed underground ruins. Although many of the Thunder Tribe's technicians looked down on the Tang sect's researchers for their eccentric direction in scientific development, they could not deny that some of those recruited by the Tang sect had real talent and were useful as assistants. The Wave Clan served mainly as security, sealing off the dozens of underground ruins revealed in Heaven Dew City to stop any desperate looters. The Mount Tai Clan took a mercantile view. If it's valuable, move it. If it's paper, archive it. If it's resources, seize it. From his vantage point, Hai Wuliang muttered, staring in the direction of Shrek City. Come faster." Neither Chen Zhou nor Hai Wuliang would hesitate to kill, but if capturing prisoners could yield greater benefits, they were willing to expend the extra effort to take valuable captives. As the operation unfolded, virtual feeds were broadcast from every branch of the Jisho Chamber of Commerce across the major cities of the Douluo continent, openly streaming the situation in Heaven Dew City with commentators narrating the events. Public outrage exploded. Mo Lan, governor of Heaven Dew City, slumped helplessly in his chair. Under his nose, the Tang sect had nearly hollowed out the city's entire underground to build a massive mecha production base. What were they trying to do? Were they planning a rebellion? Why hadn't they done it 10,000 years ago? Now everyone knew that, under Mo Lan's governance, the Tang sect had treated Heaven Dew City like private property, digging out the subterranean city to manufacture mechas on an enormous scale. "Tang sect, what exactly do you want?" he demanded, his voice a mixture of fury and despair, his eyes flashing red. As governor, Mo Lan had trusted the Tang sect and never imagined they would secretly develop a large-scale military weapons program, openly endangering the safety of Heaven Dew City and possibly trafficking arms to other nations. The revelation had ignited public wrath. There would be no turning back. Anyone connected to the Tang sect, even high-ranking officials, could not hope to escape scrutiny. Dismissal would be the lightest punishment. But in that moment, Mo Lan could do nothing to salvage the situation. The underground base had been exposed and the Tang sect's crimes made public. "Seal the city immediately," he ordered. "No entry or exit. Contact federal headquarters and request support." He sounded exhausted and helpless. He knew Heaven-Do City faced a crisis unlike any before. Tens of thousands of yellow-grade mechas, thousands of purple-grade mechas, and even after losing 100 black-grade units, hundreds of black-grade mechas still remained. The Tang sect was beyond saving. Whatever defense there had once been had evaporated. In Mingdu, at the Sun Moon Federation's Supreme Council, the news hit like a bomb. "What are the Tang sect trying to do?" an old man roared, slamming his hand on the table in uncontrollable fury. His voice reverberated through the council chamber, raw with anger and disbelief. The atmosphere was suffocating. Every council member wore a grim expression, their faces reflecting a tangle of outrage, dread, and disbelief. The exposure of the Tang sect's secret base under Heaven-Do City and its mass production line for mechas posed a direct challenge to federal authority. Tens of thousands of mechas. Are they planning to ally with Shrek Academy and incite a rebellion? Another council member demanded. They actually built such a massive mecha factory right under an important city, risking the lives of its residents. This is a betrayal of the Federation and of the people. Someone else slammed the table. Voices rose and fell in the chamber, emotions flaring. The Tang sect's actions were no longer merely illicit arms trading. They represented a grave provocation against the federal order. If any research accident had occurred, could the citizens above truly have been safe? "The Tang sect must be made to pay," a council member declared, standing up with fierce resolve. "I propose we impose comprehensive sanctions immediately, freeze their assets, arrest their high-ranking officials, and root out this cancer-threatening federal security." His words found strong support. The Tang sect's offenses could not be hidden any longer. The Federation would have to act decisively to quell public outrage and reassert authority. Even council members who had previously backed the Tang sect remained silent at this critical moment. "I second that," rose from multiple voices across the chamber. "However," one member interjected, hesitating, "the Tang sect's sect master is still on the front lines in the Abyss Plane. Should we consider the impact on the war effort?" The sect master had indeed been fighting abyss creatures on the front lines and had delivered notable military contributions for the Federation. Some worried that sweeping sanctions might affect that battlefield situation. "Humph," another replied coldly. "Just because the Tang sect's sect master is fighting the abyss does not give the Tang sect license to abuse its power and jeopardize the Federation for its own gain." The debate continued, but the prevailing sentiment was clear. The Federation had to act, and swiftly. The Tang sect's secret had been exposed. Its scale and brazenness had left federal leaders with no choice but to respond with forceful measures. A senior elder spoke coldly, his voice threaded with sarcasm. "The Tang sect has already betrayed us. What does it matter if they fought bravely on the Abyss Plane? If we don't root out this hidden threat completely, it will only bring greater disaster later. We can't let this crisis spread any further," another counselor cried, his voice trembling as though some long-held resentment had been released. When an old, powerful voice cut through the clamor, the council fell instantly silent. Even Wei Yiji, seated in the main position, involuntarily cast a respectful look. The man who had spoken was Chen Zhou, pillar of the Sun Moon Federation, Hall Master of the War God Hall, Legion Commander of the Sea God Legion, Patriarch of the Sea God family, Deputy Minister of the Douluo Military Department, and Deputy Speaker of the Federation. A 99th level limit Douluo who had touched the realm of the gods, known as the Vast Sea Douluo. Such a presence affected everything. Normally, he did not meddle in council affairs unless the matter truly demanded it. "Elder Chen, please speak," Wei Yiji said politely. As speaker, he didn't have to be the one to shoulder every burden, but he knew when to yield the floor to someone who was the real anchor of the Federation. If Chen wanted to speak, Let him. Better that Chen bear the consequences than the speaker. Chen Xinji regarded Wei with a helpless glance, then cleared his throat. The situation with the Tang sect is urgent, he began, but there's one thing you must not forget. The one who exposed the Tang sect's conspiracy came from the Jishou Chamber of Commerce. A ripple of surprise and unease passed through the hall. Chen's tone was calm, but his meaning was unmistakable. Should we be paying that chamber any heed? He went on. Years in this seat had taught him what the Federation's counselors really were. Were they righteous guardians of the people, or opportunists waiting to profit from ruin? The Tang sect might be exposed now, but so much value lay in its ruins: soul guidance technology, military know-how, medicinal formulas capable of changing physiques and unlocking talent. Such spoils would inflame anyone's greed. The Jishou Chamber of Commerce had the resources and reach to hoard or exploit those treasures, and the Federation feared both its potential defection to the two ambitious empires and its unchecked growth into a power on par with Shrek Academy. Chen's words landed like stones. Some counselors' eyes flickered with open calculation. The fall of the Tang sect could be a chance to go after the Jishou Chamber's resources, and for many, that possibility was intoxicating. I agree, a counselor said, unable to hide his eagerness. The Tang sect is hateful, but the Jishou Chamber of Commerce is no better. At least the Tang sect dealt in secrecy and arms. The chamber openly assists the Star Luo and Douling empires, improving their military tech and pressuring the Federation. This could become a magnified Tang sect. I propose we use the Tang sect's collapse to immediately sanction the Jishou Chamber of Commerce, another added. Limit their growth, sever their ties with the East Sea Legion, send the Northern and Central Legions to the East Sea for deterrence, and transfer the East Sea Legion's command. And they must stop tunneling into the Tang sect's underground ruins. Those belong to the Federation. The hall erupted. Greed and calculation glittered in many faces. The temptation to carve up what the Jishou Chamber controlled was plain. Chen Xinji watched them with a hint of sarcasm. No wonder the Federation was in decline, he thought. Hyenas in suits. Since Counselor Lan is so indignant, Chen said dryly, fixing his gaze on Lan Shangqiu, why not have Counselor Lan go and issue the order himself? His look was like one laid upon a corpse, neither wrathful nor amused. It carried the weight of experience. The Tang sect might be in decline, but its high-end combat power was real. With its branches recalled from the Douling and Star Luo empires, its hard power was, if anything, concentrated. And even then, the Jishou Chamber of Commerce had the means to wipe the Tang sect out if it chose. To demand it, cough up its gains, and bow meekly was courting death. The room froze. Lan Shangqiu's face drained of color. Cold sweat beaded along his brow. He opened his mouth to retort, but under Chen's icy stare, he found no words. At that moment, a counselor representing the Central Legion stood. Legion Commander Yu has ordered. The Central Legion will not be transferred from its station without a unanimous command from the Federation Council Presidium. A representative of the Northern Legion gave Lan a casual glance. Legion Commander Guo feels the same. Lan found himself suddenly powerless. He was, after all, only the patriarch of a Mingdu family. What authority did he have to compel Legion commanders with true military power? His proposal had been meant to burnish his reputation today. Instead, a single rebuke had exposed his weakness and left him politically isolated. You, Lan managed, voice thin. The mood around him had chilled. A senior counselor's eyes glittered with sharp pragmatism. Counselor Lan might consider his own safety, he said coolly. At a moment like this, we cannot let personal emotion dictate state affairs. The Jishou Chamber of Commerce has already demonstrated its strength. We must handle it cautiously. Silence settled over the council hall like a blanket, the temperature dropping with every unspoken calculation. Chapter 216, Heaven Supporting Douluo. Yunming, exactly. Chen Xinji seized the opening. The Federation's priority right now is national stability, especially in this crisis. After we deal with the Tang sect, we'll reassess the Jishou Chamber of Commerce, its threats and benefits, and plan our next moves. The congressmen exchanged glances, then bowed their heads, each immediately weighing his own interests and risks. Once the Tang sect was completely sanctioned, The chain of involved interests would shake many foundations. Under the pressure of the military representatives and Chen Zhou, those who had loudly called for sanctions against the Tang sect began to hesitate. May I ask what Elder Chen suggests? Wei Ji had to step forward to give Chen Zhou the floor. He too worried about the Jishou Chamber of Commerce, but the present danger demanded caution. Chen Zhou smiled, calm and resolute. The Tang sect and the Jishou Chamber of Commerce are now enemies. Without their foundation, the Tang sect becomes far easier to guide and control indirectly. Since everyone fears the Jishou Chamber of Commerce will become another Tang sect, why not have them fight each other? You must remember, Zhang Xin is still alive, Shrek Academy won't just stand by, and the righteous leader of the Blood God Legion is still at large. Chen Xinjie chuckled. An open Tang sect is something the Jishou Chamber of Commerce would naturally fear. But what about a Tang sect hidden in shadow, or a Tang sect with a limit Douluo skilled in assassination? The congressman fell silent. They could imagine the Jishou Chamber of Commerce's confidence. Cao Deji was worthless, but if Zhang Xin, embedded in the wall, could fuse spirits with him, someone like Hai Wuliang might show interest. Still, one-on-one, Hai Wuliang would find it pointless. Above Heaven Do City, Hai Wuliang hovered high in the sky. Thanks to the Jishou Chamber of Commerce's prior arrangements, within an hour, almost everything of value had been cleared from the Tang sect's ruined underground world. Hai Wuliang lingered for one reason, to meet the one reputed to be the strongest on the Douluo continent, heaven-supporting Douluo, Yunming. On the field among the ruins, Li Yunjie's voice was hoarse. He'd been gravely wounded by Hai Wuliang's strike and still hadn't recovered. He could hardly comprehend that the Tang sect might fall because of a single unknown opponent. The situation was spiraling out of control. He had to summon Yunming and Ya Li for support. Yunming and Ya Li flew at full speed, their spirit power draining as they headed straight for Heaven Do City. Yunming's heart tightened. The Tang sect suffering such catastrophic losses smelled of conspiracy. Coupled with Extinction Demon Island's destruction, he could not fathom how the Jishou Chamber of Commerce had grown so powerful in so few years. Mingge, movement ahead. Yali's voice snapped Yunming back to the present. In the distance, a sky-spanning water curtain descended, blocking them, and the Sea God Pavilion's contingent, 6 Super Douluo and 13 titled Douluo. My apologies, this path is impassable, a playful voice called. A tall man with long gilded hair strode out from above the water curtain, 2 halberds in his hands. He looked down at the strength from Shrek Academy. Who are you? Why are you stopping us from rescuing the Tang sect? Yunming demanded, frowning. Who am I? Hai Wuliang chuckled. His halberd spun lightly, his gilded hair whipped in the wind. His gaze swept over Yunming and the Shrek Academy forces with mocking disdain. Jishou Chamber of Commerce, Hai Wuliang. As for why I'm stopping you, it's simple. The Tang sect is fated to be destroyed today. No one can save it. Yunming's face darkened. A cold, killing intent flashed in his eyes. As Shrek Academy's leader and the continent's acknowledged strongest, he had never been spoken to with such contempt, much less told the Tang sect would be destroyed in front of him. How arrogant! His voice came deep and cold, like a voice from the netherworld. He slowly raised his hand and his spirit, heaven-supporting spear, materialized in his palm. The air seemed to solidify, an invisible pressure sweeping through the space. Hai Wuliang, do you truly think your strength alone can stop Shrek Academy? Yunming's tone carried an undeniable majesty, as if sky and earth answered him. The Shrek veterans behind him released their spirits one after another. Spirit lights of many colors enveloped the sky, the atmosphere bristling with impending conflict. Hai Wuliang remained unruffled, a playful smile still on his lips. He waved his halberds and spoke with casual indifference. No, I completed my mission today. My master gave me some free time to wait for members of Sea God Pavilion and to see what the self-proclaimed #1 of the continent is really like. Before he finished, Hai Wuliang's figure vanished from his original position. The next instant, he was before Yunming, his halberds laced with world-shattering force, bursting toward Yunming's chest. Yunming's pupils tightened. He lunged to block with the heaven-supporting spear, but Hai Wuliang's power far exceeded his expectation. When halberds met spear, an irresistible force slammed into him. Yunming staggered back several steps, the air under his feet warped from the impact. How is this possible? Yunming thought, staggered. He had never expected, as a quasi-god-level powerhouse, to be so driven back by an unknown man's casual strike. The opponent's force had shattered his understanding. The move used nearly perfect utilization of strength. Had it not been for Yunming's own extraordinary talent, lacking only a god realm core to ascend fully, he might have already forged a god position and entered the god realm. His talent far surpassed the likes of Tongsan or Huo Yuhao. His title as the continent's #1 was well earned. Facing such an enemy, his blood ran hot. The heaven-supporting spear twirled. Yunming unleashed his spirit power. He poured out pressure like a 99th level limit Douluo, every reserve of strength thrown into the strike. The air tightened as if solidified. Yunming's eyes sharpened like a blade, locking on Hai Wuliang. I hope you can truly stop me. His voice was deep and forceful, replete with authority. He thrust the heaven-supporting spear forward. The spear tore through the sky, an unparalleled force driving straight at Hai Wuliang. Air currents split before it, roaring like war drums that shook the heavens. A blinding radiance burst outward as the spear's momentum carved a dazzling path toward the golden-haired challenger. Chapter 2R17. You've got some skills, but it's still not enough. Well done. A wanton smile curved Hai Wuliang's lips. Facing Yunming's all-out assault, he did not dodge, he met it. His twin halberds sliced through the air, trailing a scorching heat that seemed to warp the space around them. The blades struck like lightning against Yunming's thrust, and the collision sent a thunderous shockwave ripping outward. The surrounding air erupted. Violent fluctuations pressed at everyone present until they felt suffocated. Yunming was forced back several steps, but his expression only hardened. He gripped the heaven-supporting spear with both hands, swallowing the shock and the sting of being driven back. Excitement flared beneath his restraint. He laughed, suppressed the frustration in his chest, and launched himself forward again. Spanning 1,000 miles, spear pointing to the sky. The heaven-supporting spear blazed into a shaft of golden light, as if summoning the power between heaven and earth. Spirit force vibrated into invisible arrows aimed straight for Hai Wuliang's heart. Hai Wuliang, however, remained composed. His halberds met the light with a gentle parry and easily cleaved it apart. With a soft chuckle, he shifted like a leaf on the wind, using his momentum to channel the spear's energy aside. Interesting, truly interesting. The golden beam fragmented under his blades into a shower of scattered lights that glittered like meteors. Yunming swept his spear horizontally, refusing to be deterred. He was not merely a warrior of brute force, he was the heaven-supporting Douluo, the continent's recognized #1. His attacks grew more refined and ruthless. The spear became a dragon of light, each stroke carrying the weight to split heaven and earth, each thrust aimed at lacerating vital points. Hai Wuliang remained untroubled. His twin halberds traced elegant arcs that deflected Yunming's strikes with effortless power, as if he controlled the very rules of the world. Yunming, your strength is indeed good, but it's still far from enough. A tone of mockery threaded through Hai Wuliang's words. He suddenly swung both halberds again, and a massive energy wave surged outward, pressing like a mountain toward Yunming. The force far exceeded what Yunming had expected. He braced his spear, but the wave shoved him back, the ground beneath him seeming to warp. How could this be? Yunming felt stunned. He, a quasi-god-level existence, had never imagined himself so vulnerable before a stranger. Hai Wuliang's strength lay far beyond his comprehension. Yunming, you are too weak. The disdain in Hai Wuliang's voice was plain. He struck again, unleashing a still more terrifying surge. Yunming's face drained of color. He could not withstand another blow. Just then, a soft radiance blossomed beside him and tore through the oppressive pressure, dissolving it. Yali! He turned at the sight of his wife, Yali, Vice Pavilion Master of the Sea God Pavilion and a Shrek Academy luminary. She smiled lightly, and the faint shape of her spirit, the Angel of Prayer, materialized behind her. Holy light spilled across the sky, breaking the pressure. Her gaze was gentle but resolute. Mingge, let's do this together. Before her words finished, Yali had condensed a brilliant staff in her hand. The staff glowed with a pure, imposing light that complemented Yunming's spear. They stood side by side, as if forming the single line that held the heavens. Hai Wuliang's eyebrows rose a little. The playful smile remained. Oh, husband and wife working together? How quaint. But even together, the outcome won't change. Yunming and Yali exchanged a determined look. Both knew the abyss of Hai Wuliang's power. Neither could face him alone. Only together might they have a chance. Prayer. Heavenly light. Yali moved first. Her staff erupted into countless rays that streaked like meteors toward Hai Wuliang, each beam carrying purifying force meant to obliterate darkness. Yunming's fighting spirit flared. Masters of true combat welcomed worthy opponents, and he wanted more than anything to test himself. They donned their battle armaments, Yali's holy thought cloud Ming and Yunming's heaven-supporting prayer. Under those four-word armors, Yunming felt like the pinnacle of the world. He was a single step from godhood. With Yali, the continent's foremost healing spirit master, at his side, he could finally unleash himself. Hai Wuliang barely glanced at Yali and did not attempt a sneak attack. He rose calmly higher into the air, waiting for Yunming to close. Yunming forgot why he had come here. His only thought was the duel. The Sea God Pavilion team had already finished treating the surviving Tang sect disciples and several officials, so he had no distractions. The heaven-supporting spear thrummed in his hands, answering his intent. His eyes sharpened until they seemed to pierce the man before him. This was the first opponent he truly wanted to defeat. Yunming's arrogance and power made him seem invincible, and that only stoked Yunming's resolve. A cold gleam shot through the sky. The heaven-supporting spear broke through the spirit realm, becoming a divine weapon, the Qingtian Divine Spear, then leaped toward Hai Wuliang. Hai Wuliang smiled and met the spear. One halberd parried, while the other lunged directly at Yunming's face. Alarm bells rang in Yunming's chest. A century of technique coalesced in his body. He vaulted, twisting in midair, channeling all his spirit into the Qingtian Divine Spear to meet the oncoming halberd. "You've got some skills, but it's still not enough." Hai Wuliang's voice cut through the clash. His twin halberds became streaks of annihilating light, smashing down with unstoppable force. The impact detonated like a star collapsing. Yunming's spear met the blow, but the force was overwhelming. The strike ripped through the sky, and for a moment the world narrowed to the scream of metal and the burning taste of charged air. Yunming's arms trembled. For all his transformed weapon and spirit armor, he was driven backward, the momentum tearing at his balance. Yali reacted instantly. Her staff met the residual backlash, and she unleashed a cascade of healing and support energy toward Yunming, steadying him and knitting small fractures into the edges of his spirit. Together they pressed, spear and staff combining into a radiant pincer aimed at Hai Wuliang's defenses. For a heartbeat, their attack seemed to bite, splitting the cloak of ease in his expression. Then Hai Wuliang simply smiled, and with a motion that felt like the turning of a tide, he expelled a boundless aura. It washed over them like an ocean and smashed their combined strike aside. The two were hurled through the air, crashing down onto the battlefield. Dust and debris roiled around them. Yunming's knees buckled. He spat blood but forced himself upright, spear hovering, eyes burning with renewed defiance. Yali steadied herself beside him, the angel of prayer still faintly shimmering to shield and heal. Neither could match Hai Wuliang's depth of power. Neither had expected to be overcome so completely. Hai Wuliang hovered above them, his expression almost bored. "You both fought well," he said lightly, eyes flicking over them as if taking inventory. "But in the end, you're still not enough." With that, he turned and rose, the twin halberds slicing the air with a sound like distant thunder. He vanished into the high sky as casually as one might leave a garden, leaving a stunned silence in his wake. Yunming and Yali lay on the ground, battered and breathing hard. Around them, the onlookers whispered and reeled from the display. The humiliating truth sat heavy on Yunming's chest. His current strength, for all its glory, had met its match and been found wanting. He clenched his spear, steadied by Yali's warm hand on his arm. Pain and humiliation burned, but beneath them, coiled and cold, was determination. Hai Wuliang's parting words echoed in the empty air. "You've got some skills, but it's still not enough." Chapter 218, Mission Complete. retreat. Sixth spirit ability, Angel's Wings. Yali rose into the air, her angel of prayer unfurling massive wings that spread over Yunming. Sacred light from the angel of prayer bathed him in a faint glow, sharply boosting his endurance, spirit power, speed, and strength. With his wife's full support, Yunming would not fall easily. The Qingqian divine spear danced in his hand like a swimming dragon amidst the roaring storm, his fighting spirit hardening. His whole body burned like a furnace. The Qingqian divine spear gleamed with blinding light as if it could stab through the heavens. "Come on, show me your true strength," Yunming roared, focusing every ounce of power into the spear. Bathed in sacred light, the Qingqian divine spear surged into a golden dragon that shot toward Hai Wuliang with terrifying speed. True strength? Hai Wuliang's lips curled into a mocking smile. His gilded form blurred and multiplied into countless afterimages tearing through the air. Halberd shadows sliced at Yunming from every angle, so fast his eyes could scarcely follow. Yunming reacted on instinct and experience, but the ubiquitous halberd strikes still grazed him, leaving streaks of blood across his body. Seventh spirit ability, Spirit Avatar, Yunming barked. He dared not be careless and unleashed his spirit avatar. The Qingqian divine spear swelled, transforming into a colossal golden lance wrapped in coiling dragon patterns, as if a real dragon roared along its shaft. "Qingqian, Dragon Soul Breaker," he thundered, driving the spear forward. The spearhead rent the sky, carrying peerless might toward Hai Wuliang. The airflow tore apart under its momentum, the sound like war drums rattling the heavens, followed by a blinding flash. But at the critical moment, Hai Wuliang vanished as if dissolved into the air. Yunming's attack passed through empty sky. A massive energy wave detonated where the spear had struck, but it found no target. "Too slow," Hai Wuliang's voice whispered in Yunming's ear, full of derision. He spun his twin halberds and unleashed a colossal energy wave that surged straight for Yunming. Yunming's face lost color. He slammed his spear up to block, but the force was greater than he'd expected. It shoved him backward, distorting the air beneath his feet. "Mingge!" Yeli cried, waving her staff. A gentle light enveloped Yunming, shielding him from the worst of the blast. Even so, his face was ashen. He had taken a serious beating. "All right, no more playing," Hai Wuliang said, expression turning grave. "My master didn't ask me to kill you, so I won't. After all, you're the only one who can push me this far." He raised his twin halberds deliberately. Heaven shaking, raging wave kill. Water vapor gathered from the air and condensed into a vast mist that swallowed the sky. His gilded figure seemed to merge with that mist. Halberd shadows appeared from above, below, and all around, every direction an attack. In an instant, the phantom halberds tore along the lines of Yunming's body. Wrists, elbows, shoulders, hips, knees, and ankles. All 6 major joints were pierced by halberd light. Yunming froze, every limb struck as if pinned in place. "Mingge!" Yali flew to him, cradling him protectively. She glared at Hai Wuliang. "Don't worry, I said I wouldn't kill you, and I mean it. This is punishment for coming to rescue the Tang sect," Hai Wuliang replied coldly. He sheathed his halberds and looked down at the two of them with an indifferent sweep, an almost playful smile still at the corner of his mouth. Then his figure rose as if merging with the heavens and the earth. His voice rang out across the city, majestic and frosty. "The Tang sect is destroyed. Heaven Do City has no power to resist. Shrek Academy, if you interfere further, bear the consequences." Before his words had fully faded, Hai Wuliang was gone, as if he had never stood there. Only Yunming and Yali remained, along with the silent contingent of Shrek Academy fighters, stunned and helpless. Yunming's wound was not fatal, but the defeat felt like a new, oppressive weight. "Mingge, are you all right?" Yali asked softly, her staff issuing a healing glow as she supported him. Yunming shook his head slightly, eyes still fixed on the direction Hai Wuliang had vanished. "I'm fine. I just didn't expect the Jisho Chamber of Commerce to hide something so terrifying," he said hoarsely. Yali's face darkened with concern. "This isn't something Shrek Academy can handle alone. We need a plan." Yunming nodded, resolve returning to his gaze. "We can't sit idle. A branch of the Tang sect is gone, but Shrek City and the Tang sect's headquarters remain. The Jisho Chamber of Commerce won't stop here. We must contact the Federation and deal with this together." Yali met his eyes and nodded. determination steadied her features. Below, amid the ruins of Heavendoe City, members of the Jisho Chamber of Commerce completed the cleanup with practiced efficiency. The Tang sect's underground base had been emptied, its resources and technologies taken. Hai Wuliang reappeared above the wreckage, sweeping his cold gaze over the city as if to pronounce the Tang sect's annihilation. Mission complete. Retreat. His order echoed, and the remaining chamber operatives broke off, assembling and withdrawing in orderly formation. The reconstruction and other cleanup would be left to the Federation. Far away at the Jisho Chamber of Commerce headquarters in the East Sea, Chen Zhou lay quietly on a sofa with his eyes closed, resting. Huo Wuji sat at a nearby desk, poring over file after file. Since Chen Zhou had devoted himself fully to localized alchemy, he had developed talent-enhancing elixirs, awakening, enlightenment, and sublimation that could boost innate spirit power. He had also created long-term health elixirs that targeted viruses and their complications to enhance immunity, and trauma-repairing elixirs that provided rapid recovery for internal, external, and hidden injuries, effectively granting the body a short-term, intensive regenerative boost. The work of turning those discoveries into deployment-ready products continued late into the night. Chapter 219, Cooperation from the Spirit Transfer Pagoda. With alchemical elixirs, soul guidance technology, and electrical energy all advancing in parallel, the East Sea had flourished. Its economy, education, and military strength had completed a late but spectacular rise, making it the undisputed most developed region on the entire world. Chen Zhou operated like a precision instrument, compiling new textbooks, guiding research in 3 major technological directions. Apart from teaching Xuanli and sleeping, he had worked non-stop for half a year, and the East Sea's new face was the result. My lord, Vice Pagoda Master Leng of the Spirit Transfer Pagoda requests an audience. Huo Wuji looked up, glanced at Chen Zhou, and, seeing it had nothing to do with him, returned to the pile of documents. Once the famous city lord of the City of Time, he had become a machine for approving papers. The new education system had only been in place a year. Grassroots positions were filling fine, but mid-level posts were thin. No matter how many from the Thunder Tribe went into administration, it couldn't cover the gap. They'd had to place scions of old families and loyal officials who could accept the new era's ideas. They could accept the concept, but their thinking and habits still bore the scars of the old cautious age. Better to do nothing than make a mistake. When unsure, they reported, and reported, until everything was escalated to Huo Wuji. Those people had seen the future this new era promised. The rapid change felt like it had just begun yesterday. In 3.5 years, within the Jisho Chamber of Commerce's sphere of influence, the region had taken a qualitative leap. Whether it was the elixirs that made influential families salivate, the electrical energy technology that didn't rely on spirit power, or the soul guidance projects ordinary people could participate in or even lead, everyone benefited. The wheels of history were rolling forward. Those who didn't run would be crushed beneath them. Chen Zhou opened his eyes. Then let her in. In raw combat power, Chen Zhou could not yet rival a Super Douluo, but under Huo Wuji's watchful presence, anyone who dared show a hint of hostility risked the Thunder Crescent Moon Slash, Huo Wuji's legendary technique. He was the city lord of the City of Time, the Thunder Tribe's master of inherited ultimate arts, the one who had led the tribe through the machine beast world and a machine race warrior at the peak of 18th level combat energy. No one in the Jisho Chamber's outer world would presume to test him. There was a gentle knock at the door. Come in. Huo Wuji set the papers down. At Chen Zhou's subtle signal, the composure of a city lord settled over him. For appearances, the Jisho Chamber of Commerce was still publicly led by Huo Wuji. Chen Zhou's role had to remain discreet. When the door opened, a head of fiery red hair and an exquisite face filled the doorway. Leng Yaoju, Vice Pagoda Master of the Spirit Transfer Pagoda, was undeniably beautiful, cool and noble, an image of porcelain skin and elegant bearing. She moved like a willow in the wind, distant and immaculate, a red lotus blooming in snow. Huo Wuji, a machine-blooded warrior, paid no mind to appearances. Chen Zhou, an alchemist whose head was full of knowledge from a previous life, had seen too much to be moved by beauty alone. but both men regarded her with professional curiosity. Vice Pagoda Master Leng, may I ask the purpose of your visit? Huo Wuji's voice was steady and authoritative, his gaze sharp as if trying to read her mind. Leng Yaoju smiled, cool, composed. She stepped into the office, and a 14 or 15-year-old girl followed behind her. Chen Zhou's eyes widened slightly. That girl was Gu Yue, his former classmate. I apologize for the sudden visit, President Huo. Leng Yaoju took the chair before the desk and inclined her head with courtesy. Her voice was clear, carrying quiet authority. She glanced at Gu Yu, signaling her forward. I came for 2 matters, she said. First, I want to discuss cooperation on soul spirit technology between the Spirit Transfer Pagoda and the Jishou Chamber of Commerce. Second, I ask that President Huo arrange a suitable position at the Jishou Chamber of Commerce for my disciple, Gu Yu, so she can gain experience. Huo Wuji lifted an eyebrow, his gaze pausing on Gu Yue. On the surface, the girl betrayed nothing, but beneath that placid exterior, a storm raged. Gu Yue was the Silver Dragon King. No matter how she was disguised, she remained a god-level existence. Even the continent's top figures would find it hard to pierce her disguise. Huo Wuji's look, however, felt like it reached past appearances and into essence, and Gu Yue's heart tightened with fear. Still, Huo Wuji returned his attention to Leng Yaoju and spoke calmly, though with thinly veiled curiosity. Vice Pagoda Master Leng, if I recall correctly, soul spirit technology is the Spirit Transfer Pagoda's core secret. Why seek cooperation with the Jishou Chamber now? As for Miss Gu Yue, the Jishou Chamber does welcome talent, but we must see if her skills match our needs. Leng Yaoju's smile deepened, meaning clear in her eyes. She placed a gentle hand on Gu Yue's shoulder and answered with controlled confidence. President Huo, times are changing. Though soul spirit technology has long been the pagoda's foundation, it has grown stagnant. We hope to work with emerging forces like the Jishou Chamber to jointly advance the field. With participation from the Supreme Research Group, the pagoda believes soul spirit technology could find a far brighter future. As for Gu Yue, she continued, I took her as a disciple and can guide her in cultivation and combat, but the pagoda can't meet all her needs in soul guidance technology instruction. As her teacher, I respectfully ask President Huo to give her an opportunity to learn. I believe you will be pleased with her talent and ability. Huo Wuji's expression remained unreadable as he considered the proposal. Chen Zhou watched silently, mind already turning over the implications of deeper cooperation with the Spirit Transfer Pagoda and what Gu Yue's placement might mean for the Chamber's ongoing projects. The East Sea was changing fast. New alliances and talented recruits would shape the next leap. Chapter 220, An Accidental Stroke of Luck. In truth, Vice Pagoda Master Leng didn't fully understand why Qianggu Dongfeng had suddenly called the Spirit Transfer Pagoda Council to discuss the pagoda's future. But at the meeting, Qianggu Dongfeng's reasoning was so thorough and persuasive that the senior leadership of the Spirit Transfer Pagoda unanimously approved a proposal to cooperate with the Jishou Chamber of Commerce. Qianggu Dongfeng argued that although the pagoda possessed soul spirit technology, the times were changing. Relying on the old soul spirit methods alone would no longer meet spirit masters' needs. The rising Jishou Chamber of Commerce had unprecedented resources and technology that could help the pagoda upgrade soul spirit tech and even develop a new soul spirit system. In an era of upheaval, the pagoda needed to seize the chance to cooperate with Jishou in order to secure its future. As for Gu Yue, Vice Pagoda Master Leng simply wanted to find a better development path for her. Gu Yue was her favorite disciple. Her talent and character had always earned Leng's favor. Since Leng was taking a post at the Donghai City Soul Transmission Tower, it made sense to bring her disciple along. And Shrek Academy? Leng did not want Gu Yu to walk the same old road. The exchange competition in Donghai had already exposed Shrek Academy's cracks. The Academy's claim to supremacy was no longer unassailable. Huo Wuji and Chen Zhou exchanged glances and understood each other perfectly. It was a free gift. Why not take it? Soul Spirit technology wasn't of paramount importance to Chen Zhou, but it did matter for Douluo Star's future as a logistics base. Take it casually now. The Spirit Ascension platform would be theirs sooner or later. If the spirit transfer pagoda could be absorbed peacefully, fine. If not, they could always take it by force later. On the surface, however, Huo Wuji needed to be courteous. He kept an affable smile, his tone polite and guarded. Vice Pagoda Master Leng, since you hold the Jishou Chamber of Commerce in such esteem, you have our word. We won't betray your trust. We can discuss the details of cooperation on soul spirit technology further. Regarding Miss Gu Yu, the Jishou Chamber always welcomes talented young people. If she is willing, we will provide her a platform to learn and develop. Leng's eyes brightened with satisfaction and she nodded. Then my thanks, President Huo. Gu Yue, why aren't you thanking President Huo? Gu Yue stepped forward, bowed slightly, and spoke coolly and respectfully. Thank you, President Huo. I will cherish the opportunity and strive to learn and improve. Huo waved his hand with a smile. No need to be so formal. Youth should be ambitious. I'll make the arrangements in a couple of days. As for soul spirit technology, I'll need to confer with President Huo Tianshu of the Supreme Research Group. Please wait for good news. Vice Pagoda Master Leng. Leng nodded, approval showing in her eyes. She rose, smoothed her clothes, and said to Huo, In that case, I won't take any more of your time. I look forward to our cooperation. Huo stood as well and replied politely, Vice Pagoda Master Leng, take care. I'll arrange the relevant matters as soon as possible. Leng left the office with Gu Yu. Before they stepped out, Gu Yu's gaze brushed briefly over Chen Zhou. A complex expression flashed across her face before she composed herself and followed Leng out. Once the office door closed, Huo Wuji leaned back into the soft chair and exchanged a laugh with Chen Zhou. Soul spirit technology, its future was easy enough to predict. It might be the foundation of an era, but if it didn't adapt and produce practical soul spirits, it would eventually be replaced. Those who stayed mired in old thinking would become obsolete. That Qianggu Dongfeng is far-sighted, Huo Wuji remarked with a light chuckle. As a current behemoth, if Chen Zhou hadn't wanted to avoid leaving hidden dangers by swallowing Douluo Star whole, they wouldn't have needed to confront these old forces yet. What remained of the Spirit Transfer Pagoda? Shrek Academy, once recognized as the #1 combat force, had already been crippled by Hai Wuliang. What more could the pagoda add? I'm not sure it was Qianggu Dongfeng, Chen Zhou replied, eyes still closed. Teaching alchemy to Xuan Li the day before had drained him. He was still a little fatigued. Sitting at the head of the Spirit Transfer Pagoda itself suggested Qianggu's competence, and he had the Eternal Antiquity family backing him. Qianggu Dieting, the previous pagoda master, wasn't a fool. How could an inheritance that lasted generations be given to an incapable successor? It was more accurate to say Qianggu Dieting perceived the changing times. Unlike Shrek Academy, confined to Shrek City, or the secretive Tang sect, the Spirit Transfer Pagoda had spread openly across the cities of Douluo Star. If they wanted to gather information on any topic, the pagoda could assemble a room full of relevant data in a day. With such a wide exchange of information, they naturally grasped societal changes and their sources faster than most. They didn't dwell long on the matter. Huo Wuji had a stack of documents waiting for approval, and Chen Zhou would soon meet with the Supreme Research Group to work on gene adaptation and modification for spirit masters. Gu Yue would get an intern position. Jishou had every resource but manpower and could use another promising recruit. Meanwhile, in the Spirit Transfer Pagoda Master's office, Qianggu Dongfeng held intelligence in his hand and wore a sickly, satisfied smile. Chen Zhou and Huo Wuji had both overestimated the pagoda, or more precisely, the Eternal Antiquity family within it. After abdicating, Qianggu Dieting had retreated into cultivation, striving toward godhood. Qianggu Dongfeng, however, nursed a pathological hatred for Shrek Academy. He would never forget how his beloved goddess had chased Yunming like a moth to a flame, nor would he forget the humiliation of that commanding slap to his face. That bone-deep loathing for Shrek Academy and Yunming made him monitor their every move. When Qianggu learned that Yunming, even with Yali's help, had been outclassed by someone from the Jishou Chamber of Commerce, he was ecstatic. He called the council immediately to announce cooperation with Jishou. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. If he could ally with the Holy Spirit cult lunatics, why not the Jishou Chamber of Commerce? Besides, Jishou didn't care much about the pagoda's technology anyway. In some respects, Changgu Dongfeng had stumbled into a wise decision by accident, or perhaps many spirit masters, so obsessed with combat, never received a conventional education in social development or history and so lacked a broader perspective. Still, the pagoda's council ultimately approved the cooperation. Collaboration with Jishou was advantageous and harmless. The worst outcome would be becoming subordinate to them. How much worse could that be? Aside from the love-struck Changgu Dongfeng and Vice Pagoda Master Leng, the pagoda still had capable minds. Otherwise, it could never have developed soul spirit technology to its current extent. Group number 30527487, first 3 chapters.